By the boundless mercy of Shri Shri Guru Gaurang Gandharvika Giridhari Radha Vinod Bihari Ji, the race of the Harmonist monthly online edition has completed her second year. And she has already issued the auspicious proclamation of her entrance into a third year by kindling remembrance of he who pioneered her propagation, Shri Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, on the day of his appearance. In fact, just to commemorate the auspicious moment of his appearance in this world, she manifests every month on the 5th day of the waning moon, Krishna Panchami Tithi. Shri Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakur published an English periodical by the name The Harmonist, which was an adaptation of Sajantoshni, or She Who Pleases the Lord's Own. Shri Bhaktivinod Thakur founded Sajantoshni as the journal for the present movement of pure devotion. 1. This magazine is the embodiment of remembrance of Shri Shri Guru Gaurang Gandharvika Giridhari Radha Vinod Bihari Ji. It is their literary incarnation. By propagating the words of Shri Prabhupada and his associates, race of the Harmonist precipitates the appearance of eternal welfare for those who are aspiring to perform bhajan, and she causes bliss to swell within the hearts of those who are already absorbed in the rapture of bhajan. The words of the Mahajans are certainly relevant for all times, in every circumstance and in every respect. Moreover, their words alone can provide the solution to all the problems of mankind. No words can express the profound auspiciousness invested in Shri Prabhupada Nichtarain instructions, or in the instructions of his associates and their followers. Nor can words express how profusely these instructions inundate the reader with unrivalled, pristine Siddhant, with their ability to attract his heart, and with the power to delight Shri Krishna transcendental senses. If the sincere sadhak, who aspires for eternal welfare, reads these instructions with faith and attention, then, within his present life, he will definitely realize how unprecedented these instructions are, and he will realize their deep significance and their immovable and direct adherence to truth. In accordance with Shri Prabhupada instructions, race of the Harmonist will remain aloof from directly focusing on refuting the negative. Rather, she will intently and predominantly strive to counteract the negative by profusely performing Anukul Anushilan of the non-dual absolute truth Vrajendranandan Shri Krishna, that is, she will constantly and ardently strive, with a loving heart, to make him happy. In essence, she will preach the message of Shri Rup and Shri Raghunath profusely. Only such Anukul Krishna Anushilan can nourish the spiritual life of those who sincerely aspire to perform Rupanuk Bhajan. In the present age, the only way to surely and safely progress toward pure bhajan of Vraj is to take shelter of the path shown by Shri Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. The spirit of this editorial is adapted from the editorial of Gaudiya, Year 7, Issue 1. CC by Sa Race of the Harmonist No.TWNT-1, Gaur Purnim 2010. Eulogy to Shri Ganga Devi. Shri Satchidanand Bhaktivinod Thakur. By bringing Ganga to the earth, Bhagirath Rishi liberated his forefathers. Since that time, the many scriptures have extensively broadcasted Ganga Devi glories. Those who do not honor Ganga mock the scriptures' words. Recently, sometime in the late 1800s, one very famous and erudite American chemist exalted our Bhagirthi Ganga. He had been in India just a few days before, and after analyzing the Ganges water for microbacteria, he reported that Ganges water is completely pure. There was neither any trace of contamination nor any microbial bacteria polluting it. In contrast, all rivers and streams throughout the world are presently contaminated by a profuse amount of such pollutants. But India's Ganga is completely devoid of these faults and is pure in every respect. After microscopic analysis of a vessel of Ganges water, the chemist came to know that the glories of the Ganga, as stated in Hindu scriptures, are all very rare. When he returned to his country, he published the results of this great discovery in numerous major newspapers. Also, he stated that it is not only Ganga that is so pure but all the rivers that are connected to Ganga as well. He established this through specific methods of analysis. If the glories of the Ganga had not been proclaimed in scripture, as they have been, but instead had been written according to the opinions of scientists, then the common, innocent man would not have come to revere Ganga to the same extent as we see now. The respected authors of our scriptures, who were nobly dedicated to dharma, have brought the immaculate moods of pure religion to the forefront, in all matters. There has been so much benefit as a consequence. Had these authors instead prescribed life's injunctions and laws on the grounds of the dry, lifeless soil of mundane science, then the religious moods of India, it seems, could never have spread throughout the world to the extent they have. It would be insufficient to consider Ganga Devi glories from the material perspective alone. The material world is comprised of 24 elemental principles, or tattvas. The Jeev himself constitutes the 25th tattva. The Jeev gross, physical body is made up of the 24 material tattvas, while the Atma of the Jeev, the 25th tattva, transcends these. And since the Jeev is beyond material energy, Prakriti, he is known as transcendental, or incorporeal, Aprakrit. The Supreme Absolute Spirit, Parbrahm, is also an entirely transcendental tattva. Another name of Parbrahm is Vishnu. Tad Vishnohe Paramapadam, that Vishnu resides in his supreme, transcendental abode. Rig Ved 1.22.20. This point appears repeatedly throughout the Vedas. Shri Gangadevi has sprung from the lotus feet of Vishnu, who resides in his own supreme abode. Hence, all of the scriptures approve when the corporeal glories of Ganga, as observed within the existence of her water, are discovered. The American scholar, along with the authors of so many magazines and newspapers, has merely been enchanted by Ganga corporeal glories, but there is unlimited glory present in Ganga Devi, beyond her worldly glories. The assembly of Shuddha Bhaktas, pure devotees, has revealed that if someone resides near the Ganga and brings her water, Haribhakti will manifest in his heart. This is so because the water that emanates from the transcendental lotus feet of the supremely merciful Shri Vishnu has the power to awaken bhakti to the lotus feet of Shri Hari, Vishnu. Vyas and the other great saints have sucked this truth everywhere. The living entities who have been overshadowed by contamination are painfully wallowing in total forgetfulness of Shri Hari. But when they immerse themselves in the waters of the Ganga and sing about the qualities of Shri Hari, bhakti awakens in their hearts. Only fortunate souls can realize these principal qualities of Ganga, while the realizations of unfortunate souls remain confined solely to Ganga material qualities. In answer to the doubt that many people repeatedly take bath in the Ganga and drink her waters constantly but still never do Haribhajan, it can be said that qualities from one object can only be transmitted to another object that does not obstruct their transmission. Electricity can only be transmitted into an object that is a good conductor of electricity, not into an object that is a bad conductor. Similarly, among the jivas, those who commit certain severe offenses become bad conductors of bhakti, which is here likened to electricity. Just as those who perform sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name are severe offenders to the holy name, namapradhis, those who perform sinful activities with the expectation that Ganga Devi glorious waters will purify them of their sins are terrible offenders. All types of sins are washed away by bathing in Ganga. Yet the aparadh just mentioned is not nullified in the same way. Those who commit this aparadh become bad conductors and are unable to realize the unlimited glories of the Ganga. Consequently, most people these days cannot realize Ganga transcendental potency. They simply perceive, by their mundane intelligence, the material composition of her water. Translated from Shri Bhaktivinod Thakurer Prabandhavali. CC by Sa Race of the Harmonist No.TWNT-1, Gaur Purnim 2010. Shri Prabhupader Updesamrit. Infallible Lessons on the Path of Devotion, the Nectarian Instructions of Shri Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. Question 1. Is it proper to endeavor for personal happiness while neglecting devotional service? Answer. Never. Endeavors for personal happiness are non-devotional abhakti. A person who always remains busy with his own happiness and freedom, leaving aside service to Hari, Guru and Vaishnavas, will never be the recipient of any service from others, despite his desire for it. Instead, he will be neglected and disliked by all. On the other hand, millions upon millions of people, and even Mahaprabhu himself, will be ready to serve that person who disregards his own happiness and comfort, yet remains continuously engaged in service to Sri Guru and Krishna, with his body, mind and words. Question 2. With what attitude should we chant the name of Sri Bhagwan? Answer. Shuddha Bhaktas, pure devotees, never call out to Bhagwan to destroy their own sin, to accumulate piety or attain the heavenly planets, or to dispel a famine, epidemic, disturbance of the peace, revolution or disease. Nor do they call out to him to attain objects for their enjoyment, such as wealth or a kingdom. The very names of Sri Bhagwan directly indicate the Supreme Controller, Parmeshwar himself. If we attempt to engage that Supreme Lord in accomplishing any act for our personal sense enjoyment, it means that we are trying to appoint him, our most worshipful object, as our servant. This is the great offense. Therefore, unless we call out to Bhagwan for the sake of serving him, our calling him will go in vain. Jesus Christ has said, "Do not take God's name in vain." "Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord in vain" is the third of the 10 commandments established by Moses and propounded by Jesus Christ, the Bible, Exodus 20:7. 1. But this does not imply that we are not to call out to him continuously, while sleeping, dreaming, eating, or during times of recreation, and at any time and in any place. If we call out to Bhagwan with a desire to serve him, then our call will not go in vain. Indeed, it is our sole obligation. However, if we merely imitate the process of genuinely calling to him by soliciting him to fulfill our personal desires, then our effort will be in vain. That the name of Bhagwan should not be taken in vain means that one should not call his name with a desire to attain dharma, religiosity, earth, material prosperity, calm, selfish gratification, or moksha, liberation. Rather, the sole reason one should continuously call to him is to serve him. Question 3. What is the difference between the soul, the mind and the body? Answer. Scripture has delineated the distinctive differences between the soul, the mind and the body, and has given the subtle analysis of them as a spiritual spark, a shadow of spirit, and inert matter, respectively. The soul is the owner of the two other substances, namely the body and mind. The body and mind belong to the soul, and in turn the soul belongs to the supersoul. The soul has two coverings, one is the subtle covering called the mind, and the other is the gross covering called the body. The external material body is the aggregate of the 5 gross elements, while the internal body, or mental body, is that which drives the external body. Through its connection with the mind, the soul, in its confined state, is bound with incompatible possessions in the form of the physical body. The soul is in a dormant state at present, so it is not aware of service to the supersoul. Seeing that the soul, their owner, is asleep, these two subordinate workers, the mind and body, fulfill their own narrow-minded interests instead of fulfilling the interests of their proprietor. The mind's nature is to waver, but the soul is unchanging and eternal. The function of the mind is to enjoy and to renounce, while the function of the soul is to serve Sri Bhagwan. The mind can comprehend objects that have up to 3 dimensions. It has no capacity to understand objects of the 4th dimension because they are beyond sense perception. Through worldly knowledge and experience one cannot comprehend the supreme absolute truth, Sri Bhagwan, who is beyond the scope of material senses. Question 4. How, then, will I become acquainted with such transcendental subject matters? Answer. Just as a messenger brings news of one's relatives who live in a distant land, a transcendental messenger bears transcendental news. Whoever does not become the recipient of his transcendental message is understood to be extremely unfortunate, for that transcendental messenger will certainly deliver his message to anyone who is truly eager for it. Question 5. How will we recognize a messenger from Vaikuntha and the authenticity of his message? Answer. If our prayers become sincere and honest, then by the mercy of Bhagwan, who is omniscient, everything will be revealed to us. A student can recognize an erudite scholar only with the help of another erudite scholar. Sri Bhagwan, who resides in our heart, will help us in every aspect of our life. We only have to depend on him exclusively. If we want to acquire knowledge of some entity, there are 2 means by which we can do so. The first means is through knowledge and experience pertaining to this world. But in the case of transcendental entities, the experience and knowledge of this world are to be considered incomplete. Thus the second means is to exclusively surrender one's self to that great personality who has descended from the same realm as that transcendental entity. By hearing from him we can gain an understanding of that entity. Question 6. Material knowledge and experience are our sole resource. How can rejecting them help us surrender to a supramundane being? Answer. One cannot progress successfully if he fears the process of surrender, thinking it to be difficult. If we want to know the absolute truth, we will need immense spiritual strength of heart. We cannot learn the art of swimming if we fear the mere sight of water. The process of surrender is not a very difficult matter, rather, for the soul it is easy and natural. Whatever is opposed to surrender is unnatural for the soul and painful. Question 7. By what means can we gain the courage to surrender our very self? Answer. We have to hear Harikatha from a bona fide representative of Bhagwan. When we listen to him speak, we must shut out all of our worldly experience, knowledge and flawed logic. As we continue to hear the transcendently powerful and valorous narrations of Bhagwan from a living sadhu, unwanted obstructions, anarthas, like hair-tedness will gradually be removed. At that time unprecedented courage will enter our heart and selfless surrender, the natural propensity of the soul, will be fully awakened. In such a surrendered heart the self-manifesting, absolute truth of the transcendental realm will reveal himself. This is the only way we can know the absolute truth, for it is impossible by any other means to know that truth, which is free from any trace of deceit. Question 8. What is the specific necessity of surrender and determination? Answer. It is essential to have full confidence in Bhagwan. It is equally essential to have similar firm determination to perform Haribhajan, the process of devotional service. I must receive His grace. I must not go astray. I must always go on chanting His name. God will undoubtedly help me if I am bona fide. If someone is exclusively surrendered to the lotus feet of Sri Gurudev, he will certainly attain the fulfillment of all his desires. May the mercy of Sri Gurudev, who is non-different from Sri Roop, truly be our sole support. Only then can we attain our spiritual welfare. Question 9. Can one perform Krishna Bhajan without accepting the shelter and guidance of Sri Guru? Answer. Never. We will exclusively perform Krishna Nushilan, perpetual, ardent endeavor meant exclusively for Sri Krishna. This Krishna Nushilan is possible only under the guidance or direction of Krishna devotees. Shri Varshabhanvi Devi, Shri Radha, is Anukul, genuinely kind to Shri Krishna. Indeed, Anukul is another name for Shri Radha. All of our divine gurus are none other than the dearmost associates of Shri Varshabhanvi Devi. We, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, are worshippers of that Krishna who belongs to Anukul Shri Radha. Gaudiya Vaishnavas are more inclined to Shri Radha than to Shri Krishna. Shri Gurudev is the non-different manifestation of Shri Radha. Only through the anugatya or guidance of Anukul can one perform perpetual and ardent endeavor meant exclusively for Shri Krishna, Krishna Nushilan. Wherever the guidance of Anukul, that is, the guidance of Shri Guru, is absent, it will not be possible to ardently endeavor to cause Shri Krishna pleasure out of genuine kindness to him, Anukul Krishna Nushilan. Instead, all that will exist will be the devastating desire for one's own happiness. Only by relinquishing this conceited propensity, which is opposed to bhakti, while performing service to Shri Krishna under the guidance of Shri Guru, can everything be achieved. Unfortunately, however, instead of seeking to give pleasure to Shri Krishna, we have become busy in the search for our own pleasure. Alas! Denying Krishna as the master of our home, we ourselves have assumed that position and thus have become Grihavrat, someone who has vowed to enjoy their senses by fulfilling their fantasies. But if we wish to attain our real welfare, we will have to become attentive to it within this very lifetime. Uterse we will be deprived of it and become the loser despite receiving such a golden opportunity. Question 10. Will dressing as a sannyasi make things easier for me? Answer. Not at all. Things will not become easier if one merely acquires the garb of a sannyasi, renunciant. If one becomes Guru Devtatma, that is, if he considers Shri Guru to be the Devta, worshipful Lord, and as dear as his very Atma, soul, and if he thus makes service to Shri Guru his life and soul, then he alone can become a true sannyasi. It is preferable that only a bhakt, who has steadfast faith and devotion in the spiritual master, Guru Nishtha, and steadfast faith in chanting the holy name, Nam Nishtha, should become a sannyasi. However, those who do not engage in service to Shri Krishna under the guidance of Guru and instead become involved in bad association, will become completely ruined. They will never be able to understand Bhagwan or attain loving service to him. By dressing oneself as a saint it is possible to fool others in this world, but the omniscient Lord, who bestows results according to one's karma, will never pardon such a person. Those who dress as sadhus but are engaged in asatsang, bad association, are harming their very own interests. By not depending on Bhagwan, by relying on someone else, one only invites grief. Question 11. Is this world really a prison house for the conditioned souls? Answer. Those who do not desire anything from this material world are called Nishkinchan devotees. In their opinion, there is nothing in this world, no object or being, that can give us perpetual happiness. This earth is a prison house for the conditioned soul. As a result of our aversion to Krishna, we have become prisoners here and are thus suffering so much pain and agony. As prisoners we are under the control of the jailer of this prison house, our mind, and consequently we conceive of our sorrow to be happiness. By this we attain our due distress. Every fool who runs after sense enjoyment in this illusory material world will find himself entangled by nescience in the clutches of Maya. Those who are Grihavrat, who have taken a vow to enter into and enjoy worldly life, think we must get a servant, and now that we have become Grihavrat, we shall easily manage everything and easily understand everything with the help of our very own senses. The desire to become a politician, a literator, a scholar, a wealthy person, an altruist, the leader of a nation, an intellectual or a materialist in general is nothing but the desire to become the master of Maya. However, Prahlad Maharaj says, do not let your senses wander toward the external worlds. Do not hold external material objects in esteem. We have become Dehatmavadis, those who consider the body to be the self, and Grihavrat, those who have taken a vow to enter into and enjoy worldly life, and thus we dress ourselves up as masters of this world. We view this world with eyes that seek selfish gratification and enjoyment, and we think that all should be our servants, ever prepared to wait upon us. All elements like earth, water, fire, air, ether, as well as the moon, the sun, the planets, the constellations, plants, animals, trees and creepers, all are ripe for my enjoyment. We think, I am the enjoyer of this world, everyone in it is meant to serve me. But do we ever consider whom this world is actually for? It is an instrument to be used in the service of Jagdishwar, the Lord of the universe. If we are not engaged in Haribjan, then we do not even have the right to take a piece of straw from this world. Question 12. Who does Krishna attract? Answer. The being Krishna attracts all the three worlds. This substantive entity alone is attractive. Just as a magnet only attracts iron, not wood, Bhagwan, who is most worshipful, only attracts those souls who are inclined to serve him, Sevamukh, and those who are already his servants, Sevak. Greed to relish the sweetness of transcendental service to him attracts both types of souls. However, if a person who is inclined to serve him, Sevamukh, becomes attracted at some point to something else, he will be deprived of that original attraction. On one side is attraction to the material world, which leads to bondage, and on the other side is that most auspicious attraction to Krishna in this world. Attractive forms, tastes, smells, sounds and touches are extremely close by, and due to our feebleness we become attracted to them. But if someone in this condition can incessantly hear Harikatha from the lips of the Sadhu Guru, then he can procure his release from the clutches of those nearby enemies. If we cannot become attracted to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, then we are bound to become attracted to Maya. When we become attracted to Sri Krishna name, beautiful form and so forth, we may be relieved of our present, self-inflicted inconvenience of assuming the position of the enjoyer, a position which in truth belongs to Sri Krishna alone. To the extent that we engage in hearing, chanting and remembering the narrations of Krishna, our false notions of being the enjoyer will be dispelled, and then we will surely feel attraction to Krishna. Question 13. How can we achieve our transcendental welfare? Answer. One invites terrible trouble by becoming a Grihavrat, one who has accepted a vow to remain in family life, or a Grihasakta, one who is attached to his home and family. If, however, we remain under the guidance of that Sri Gurudev who is at every moment engaged in service to Sri Krishna and render service to him, all of our troubles will cease to exist. There is no way to obtain our transcendental welfare other than by following in the footsteps of the devotees of the Lord, Bhagavad Bhaktas. Service to Gurudev, who is Bhagavad Prisht, most dear to Bhagwan, is even more beneficial than directly serving him, the original being. We shall indeed receive the utmost benefit by serving Sri Guru. Even the most fallen souls obtain deliverance by rendering service to Sri Guru. Those who are seeking their own true welfare shall certainly engage in service to Sri Guru and the Vaishnavas with utmost care and respect. What is service to Sri Guru and the Vaishnavas? Sri Guru and the Vaishnavas do not engage in anything other than service to Sri Krishna. Rendering service to Sri Guru and the Vaishnavas means to assist them in their service to Bhagwan and to blissfully follow their instructions without any hesitation or doubt. Therefore, the guidance, Anugatya, of Sri Guru is essential under all circumstances. To vainly disregard the guidance of Sri Guru and then to serve Sri Krishna on one's own only leads to discomfort. One is completely ruined by disobeying or disapproving of Sri Guru. To think, I am serving Sri Hari is sheer arrogance. This arrogance alone is the first and foremost cause of one's fall down. By trying to find flaws in Sri Guru and the Vaishnavas, one is inevitably inviting his own doom. Nothing other than service to Sri Guru can be beneficial or auspicious for the Jeev. Busying oneself in the search for one's own pleasure results in inauspiciousness. Without becoming one-pointed, one cannot render service to Krishna, and it is not possible to become one-pointed unless one serves Sri Guru. There is no means of deliverance for the soul bound by Maya other than service to Sri Guru and the Vaishnavas. Question 14. Is Sri Radha the original spiritual master? Answer. The foremost transcendental pleasure-giving potency, Ladini Swarup Parashakti, Sri Radha, is the sole Guru of all devotees. Not only this, she is even the Guru of Sri Krishna, who, accepting a position as her disciple, learns the art of dancing. Pure devotees, Shuddha Bhaktas, who are in a ras other than Madhur ras, transcendental Amur, consider Sri Nityanand Prabhu to be the original spiritual master. However, for those rasic devotees who are in Madhur ras, the original Guru is Sri Radhika herself. Question 15. Why are we not attaining God realization? Answer. How is it possible to attain realization of Bhagwan if the Jeev, who is constitutionally a servant of the Lord, is not constantly associating with and serving Bhagwan and his bhaktas? If I am occupied with my worldly, material affairs, then how will I receive any response from Jagdishwar, the master of the universe? Overpowered by wicked desires, I have now become so evil-minded that I have developed a relationship with this world that promises to last well into the future. This wicked intelligence of mine has developed simply due to my aloofness from the original fountainhead. Just as by stepping on quicksand the foot is swallowed up, by depending on the phenomenon of treacherous soil, we are drowning. Instead of becoming inclined towards Krishna, we, who are possessed of evil desires, spend our time in endeavors that are averse to him. The external potency, Maya, of Sri Vishnu has captured us by making us enjoyers or material activists. We should be very cautious. We essentially require the guidance of a governor, that is, Sri Guru, at every step. Service to the devotees promises more than service to the Lord himself. The association of the bhaktas is even more beneficial than the association of the Lord. The living place of the bhakta, the abode of Sri Gurudev, is more favorably for Shuddha Bhajan, pure, loving devotional service, than the abode of the Lord. Yathai Vaishnavgan, says Thane Vrindavan, wherever the Vaishnav resides, that very place is Vrindavan, the abode of Krishna. It is important to properly understand this. If we are apathetic towards Guru Seva, we will not be able to become a true servant, rather, we will become arrogant. In other words, we will remain bound in the current of thought that relates to the external world alone. Throughout the entire theistic world, there is no subject superior to that of service to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha Govind. It is therefore necessary to constantly engage in hearing Harikatha so that we do not end up deprived of service to Adhokshaj, he who is beyond the reach of the material senses, perceiving ourselves to be the controller. Instead, we ought to intensely focus on our Haribhajan because many lifetimes have already passed in other activities. We must therefore take perpetual care to achieve the topmost goal in this very life. When, with extreme care, we constantly engage in service to Sri Guru and Krishna with love and attention, we shall definitely be able to realize Bhagwan. Question 16. Why is there so much suffering in this world? Answer. Shri Bhagwan says that all this suffering, pain, misery and calamity has been enacted, not to make you grief-stricken, but to teach you that suffering is unwanted. You can then search after that happiness, which is prayed for eternally, that bliss which is always sought after. Question 17. How is hearing or speaking about mundane topics, Gramyaktha, harmful or unfavorable to one's bhakti? Answer. Shriman Mahaprabhu has said, Gramyaktha na shunibe, Gramyavarta na kahibe. Bhal na khaibe ar bhal na paribe. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrit, Antyalila 6.236. Do not listen to the mundane talk of common men or engage in discussions about mundane topics. Do not eat palatable foodstuffs or dress yourself nicely. This statement has been made solely for those who have deep faith in Haribhajan and an intense taste for it. Eating highly palatable foodstuffs mostly only causes harm to one's own self, it does not cause so much of a disturbance to others. In other words, eating palatable foodstuffs does not obstruct the Haribhajan of others. Still, the urge of the tongue is not beneficial, since it is harmful to one's own bhakti. Shriman Mahaprabhu has also said, Jihvar lal se yei ityuti dhai. Shishnodar prayan Krishna nahi paye. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrit, Antyalila 6.227. Being carried away by the urge of the tongue, one who runs here and there seeking palatable food, thus making the satisfaction of his belly and genitals his principal objective, cannot attain Krishna. Wearing very nice clothes, however, is quite harmful to others, since people only wear stylish clothing for the sake of others. What does this mean? The only purpose in dressing stylishly is to distract people's eyes and minds away from Haribhajan and make them bid it farewell. Hearing worldly mundane talk causes oneself more harm than eating delicious food, and by speaking about mundane topics, one causes more harm to others than by wearing stylish clothes. Ordinary or mundane talks are just like a prostitute in that they cause immense obstacles to one's Haribhajan by polluting and distracting one's mind. One who has great interest in these useless talks will surely lack a natural taste for Harikatha. This is to be clearly understood. Shri Raghunath Das Goswami has said, Asadvarta Vesha Visrij Mati Sarvasvaharniha, please abandon altogether the prostitute of contemptible mundane talk, which plunders the entire treasure of pure wisdom. When 5 people sit together, they will definitely engage in useless talk. It is said, 5 people gathered together cannot be unhappy. To this is why the devotees always remain engaged in speaking Harikatha. When Harikatha is being spoken, no one has an opportunity to engage in useless mundane talk. Those who wish to perform Haribhajan will not listen to ordinary mundane topics or speak about them, nor will they give their attention to eating palatable food or wearing stylish clothes. This is because the desire for such activities or interest in them will definitely cast one far from the path of Haribhajan. One can never perform Haribhajan if one desires to eat palatable food or wear nice clothes. Moreover, the desire for and interest in hearing and speaking ordinary mundane topics will alienate the Jeev from Haribjan and lead him down the wrong path. Thus he would bid Haribjan farewell. Consequently, it is particularly essential for one who sincerely desires to perform Haribjan to exercise extreme caution in these matters. Otherwise one's ruin is inevitable. Question 18. How will we attain Krishna Prem? Answer. The devotees of Bhagwan harbor the auspicious wish that the living beings will attain their eternal welfare and not just remain occupied with inauspicious matters. The only means to attain that eternal welfare is to accept shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Gurudev, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, Krishna Prisht. By taking shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Gurudev, who is non-different from Sri Roop, one will attain the position of a servant of Nandanandan Sri Krishna, that Sri Gurudev must be served with determined conviction and love, and one must hear about Haribjan from his lotus lips. When the dust upon the lotus feet of Sri Gurudev becomes our mainstay, we will be able to attain Madhurya Seva to Sri Krishna, he who is the enchanter of the whole world, Bhuvan Mohan. Hence we must always worship the lotus feet of Sri Gurudev without cessation. Sri Gurudev is transcendental, aprakrit. He is not a transient entity of this world, merely a gross frame of flesh and blood. His form, like the form of Sri Bhagwan, is composed of eternality, knowledge and bliss. Sri Gurudev is Narbrahm, a transcendental human being, not Nar, an ordinary, mortal man. Any service rendered to the transcendental beings Guru and Gaurang by those who consider them to be among the multitudes of this world is simply pretentious, since such people only serve them to fulfill their own selfish interests. Such service is not pure service, rather it simply reflects the mentality of a merchant or Padmaniti. Padmaniti, the policy of Padmavati, the mother of Kans, who wanted to settle the Yadvas debt to the Vrajvasis by calculating back payment for all the transcendental, loving services they performed for Krishna while he lived with them. 3. As long as the living soul does not come completely under the guidance of that most worshipful being, Sri Gurudev, Bhagwan will not become the object of his darshan, vision. Those who are not aware of the qualities of Sri Gurudev, such as his transcendence, aprakritatva, his position as the master, Ishwaratva, and his exceptional intimacy with Krishna, Krishna Preshtatva, are totally unqualified to gain entrance into the transcendental realm of Krishna Seva. Only by the mercy of Sri Gurudev shall we come within the close proximity of the transcendental entity. In other words, by accepting shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Dev, we will be able to attain his darshan with divine eyes, which will be made of pure consciousness and saturated with the beautiful proclivity to serve. Thus, by securing the fortune of coming close to the lotus feet of Swayamrup Sri Krishna, we will become blessed and accomplish our purpose. As long as we remain captivated by mundane, external appearances, Prakritrup, we will not attain darshan of Sri Gurudev, who is non-different from Sri Roop Goswami, or, literally, that graceful beauty. Only when we sincerely and honestly perform loving service, bhajan, to those worshipful entities, Sri Guru and Sri Krishna, will we achieve auspiciousness, and only then will our present vision by which we perceive every object as an object meant for our enjoyment, finally cease. Therefore my prayer is, Addanastrina Dantair, Ida Yache Punah Punah, Srimad Guru Padambhoj, Dhulya Shya Janma Janmani. Taking a blade of grass between my teeth, I fall down and pray again and again. I do not wish for anything like the four goals of human life, namely dharma, religiosity, earth, economic development, calm, sense gratification, and moksha, liberation. I only want to become a speck of dust at the lotus feet of Sri Gurudev. That is, under my Shri Gurudev guidance, I wish to constantly serve Bhagwan in the same way that my Gurudev does. Krishna is mine, and if I do not serve him, he will undergo great trouble. We will only attain Krishna Prem or service to Shri Krishna when a mood like this fully ripens. And such great fortune is only possible when we earn Shri Gurudev affection by rendering service to him. Question 19. Is faith, Shraddha, in Shri Gurudev actually the root of bhakti? Answer. Certainly. It is absolutely essential to have Sambandha Gyan, knowledge of existential relationships, before bhakti awakens. Shri Gurudev alone bestows this Sambandha Gyan. Unflinching faith in Shri Guru, who is completely transcendental, is the root of bhakti. Ado Shraddha, the first stage, is the attainment of transcendental faith. After relinquishing blind assurance that there are numerous different religions and abandoning the path of logic and argument, our first and foremost requirement is to develop Shraddha in the auspicious instructions of Shri Gurudev. What does Shraddha mean? Shraddha means to possess full confidence in the words of Shri Gurudev. It means we shall never rely on the words of any worldly person because everyone but Shri Gurudev is a pretender. Renouncing the words of every other person in this world, we shall establish the words of Shri Gurudev as the object of our full faith, for he has descended from Vaikuntha just to deliver us. If we do not do this, then there will be no scope for our welfare. Only by the mercy of Shri Gurudev will all of our anarthas, obstacles, be dispelled and all of our hopes fulfilled. By his mercy alone we will definitely be granted the darshan of Bhagwan and attain his mercy. By entering the vicinity of Sadhu and Guru and by associating with them, we shall be relieved of all of our difficulties and shall thereafter attain Shuddha Bhakti. Therefore, we should implicitly rely upon Shri Gurudev in order to approach and serve the Absolute Person. Shri Guru will give us the highest good. If, perchance, we shall meet a real Guru, then we shall surely be saved and shall verily reach our goal. Shri Guru will always supply and enrich us with transcendental knowledge and service. To think that I will regulate Gurudev in any way is the outlook of an atheist. It is this conception alone that constitutes disobedience to the spiritual master, Guru Avagya, the first of the 10 offences to the holy name, and must be forsaken at all times. By the mercy of Shri Gurudev, we, the atomic sparks of consciousness, Anu Chaitanya, will approach the Supreme, Infinite Consciousness, Vibhu Chaitanya. We will relinquish the association of other ordinary fellows and approach our eternal Lord. Though Shri Gurudev considers himself to be an insignificant servant of Bhagwan, I consider him to be my eternal friend and well-wisher and the only one who can help me approach Bhagwan. I consider Shri Gurudev to be both identical to Bhagwan and also the beloved of Bhagwan. I will surrender myself completely unto his lotus feet. Without any selfish interest, I will dovetail all my endeavors exclusively to serve him. Only then shall I achieve all perfection. Question 20. How can we achieve happiness? Answer. One can achieve freedom from fear and sorrow and can experience real happiness by remaining in the shelter of Shri Gurudev lotus feet, and one can gain his association by serving him. One can receive the mercy of Shri Gurudev very quickly by remaining engaged in serving him at every moment, through one's body, mind and words. When Shri Gurudev is pleased, the inclination to serve him increases more and more. This good fortune stands alone as the topmost good fortune and the only true reward. Question 21. What is Bhakti? Answer. The quest to give happiness and satisfaction to Bhagwan constitutes Bhakti. The meaning and purpose of Bhakti is to increase the happiness and satisfaction of Krishna, not oneself. Bhakti is the inborn occupation of the living soul, and she alone is the sole eternal and natural constitutional function, dharma, of the living entity. By constitution, the soul has no other function, dharma. Any other tendency is not the soul's true dharma, since no other tendency constitutes the soul's constitutional function as bhakti does. Rather, such other tendencies are distorted reflections of real dharma, and are thus temporary and transient. Bhakti is the destroyer of fear, sorrow and delusion. Absorption in that which we perceive as separate from Krishna is the sole cause of fear, sorrow, delusion and so on. Everything that is perceived as separate from Krishna or his devotees constitutes dvitiya bhinivesh, absorption in secondary or petty matters. Bhakti is comprised of exclusive, full absorption in a single entity, Bhagwan Shri Krishna, and it is full of steadfastness, nishtha, in him. Question 22. Does Bhagwan ever interfere with the independence of the living entity? Answer. The living entity is a minuscule fragment, anuvansh of Parmeshwar, the Supreme Infinite Consciousness, Vibhu Chaitanya. A drop of water has the same qualities as the ocean of water, though in minute quantity. Similarly, since Vibhu Chaitanya Bhagwan is supremely independent, the infinitesimal soul also has the quality of independence, but only to an infinitesimal degree. The living entity is not created, rather he is an eternal entity. Nor is the living soul inert, rather he is conscious. The independence that a living entity possesses has not been granted by anyone. Independence is innate in his existence, and he only experiences distress due to misusing his independence. Bhagwan never interferes with anyone's independence, for he shall never destroy Chaitandharma, the soul's natural, innate state of cognizance. Bhagwan is an ocean of compassion, and so he simply acquaints the living being with the use and misuse of his faculty of cognizance. Only they who engage in bhajan of Bhagwan after listening to all these instructions of his or to the instructions of scriptures, in other words, they who exercise their independence appropriately, can attain their actual, topmost welfare. Question 23. What is Maya, nescience? Answer. Miyate anya iti Maya. That which can be used to measure or that which can be measured is Maya. Combining ma, not, and ya, which yields the word Maya, that which is not. Maya is comprised of all that is perishable and temporary. That which is not the Supreme Lord Bhagwan is Maya. Bhagwan is the master of Maya, he cannot be measured. Maya, as described in Srimad Bhagavatam, is not a separate entity, as it appears in Christianity, where Godhead and Satan are deemed to separate entities. According to the school of the Bhagavat, Maya resides behind the Supreme Personality, Bhagwan, as though his shadow, in a state of condemnation in order to chastise and correct the living beings who have become averse to Krishna. Question 24. What is Arohvad? The words Arohvad and Avrohvad literally mean the ascending path and the descending path. The former refers to depending on one's own abilities to elevate oneself to a higher stage of existence, while the latter refers to depending on help from above to become elevated. 4. Or the ascending process. Answer. The policy of Arohvad is, like Ravan, to attempt to construct a stairway to reach heaven. That kind of uphill work is most puzzling. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it has been prescribed that this uphill work, namely, trying to construct a stairway to heaven, be abandoned. On one end of the spectrum is attempting to force the sun to become visible at night by using lanterns, and on the other end is prayerfully waiting for sunrise, and then viewing the sun by way of its own rays of light. If we hanker for temporary objects of enjoyment, we are bound to become followers of the path of Arohvad, compelled to endeavor to acquire jnana or to perform karma or yoga. But endeavors on the path of Arohvad will always remain incomplete. A 20-year-old civilization shall surely prove to be deficient and falterdon in comparison to a 100-year-old civilization, and the knowledge and culture of a 200-year-old civilization shall at once be rejected in favor of the knowledge and culture of a 1,000-year-old civilization. In fact, intelligent men do not pursue the ascending path, Arohvad, in any of their activities, rather they are Avrohpanthi, followers of the descending process. Question 25. Can the mentality of inductive reasoning, Arohvad, be permanently relinquished? Answer. As long as someone maintains the mentality that he can fully depend on his own strength and abilities, his own self-confidence and his own understanding, he will be unable to surrender unto the lotus feet of Sri Bhagwan. And he will have great regard for the notion of argument and reasoning, Arohvad, as long as the notion of surrender has not manifested in his heart. Only when someone realizes the insignificance of his own ability to support himself, the worthlessness of his proud self-conception, and the ineffectiveness of his own endeavors, can he surrender himself and accept the path of receiving help from above, Avrohvad. Srimad Bhagavatam recounts the history of Gajendra, the king of the elephants. Once, Gajendra was passionately engaging in water sports within a lake, along with all of his wives. Due to his wild stamping, he was a threat to all the other living beings in the lake who lived in constant fear of being trampled to death by him. But then, a very powerful crocodile suddenly appeared from within the lake and caught hold of the leg of the intoxicated Gajendra. A fierce fight ensued between the elephant and the crocodile. It was so severe that it continued to rage even after 1,000 years had passed, since they were both trying to display their might by overpowering the other. Gradually, however, Gajendra's strength began to diminish. As he lost his power, his madness, bravado and self-pride also began to wane. When Gajendra, who was hopelessly trapped by the crocodile, saw that there was no way for him to escape, he realized that the most beneficial course of action for him was to accept the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Like the proud elephant, as long as the Jeev considers his insignificant existence to be important, he follows the path of Arohvad, but when the glories of surrendering unto the lotus feet of Sri Bhagwan manifest within his heart, he accepts the path of surrender, or Avrohvad. All sadhus exclusively preach the path of surrender. They never instruct us to adopt Arohvad, the ascending process. However great a person may be, if he follows the path of Arohvad, considering it to be auspicious, he is bound to fall down. Krishna is the sole shelter of all. We can never be protected by the belief that anyone else can provide us shelter. Prakritya kriyamanani. Gunaya karmani sarvashay. Ahamkar vimudhatma. Kartaham iti manyate. Bhagavad Gita 3.27. All aspects of material activity are performed by the modes of material nature, yet he whose intelligence has become bewildered by false ego considers himself to be the doer. Due solely to their false ego, the intelligence of dull-minded people is inclined towards mundane goal-oriented activities. These elevationists are of course followers of Arohvad. Likewise, the Jnanis, who seek emancipation, want to attain greatness solely by their own endeavors. Jnani Jivanmuktaksha Painu Karimane, the Jnanis falsely consider that they have attained the stage of liberation. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 22.29. The Jnanis wish to become Brahma, the Supreme Absolute. This longing of one who is utterly insignificant to become the most prominent of all is called Arohvad. The yogis wish to become only a little greater than they already are by acquiring some supernatural power and opulence, or else they desire liberation by merging with the existence of Brahma. All these endeavors are nothing but arohva. We should simply remain in our own station, whatever it may be. We should never become a jnani and follow the path of arohvad, nor should we engage in the ill-minded endeavors of a karmi or yogi on the path of arohvad. We should not be influenced by the desire for the attainment of monastic emancipation, moksha, or enjoyment, bhog. Rather, surrendering our body, mind and words, we should hear harikatha from the mouths of sadhus. Then, only, shall the unconquerable and unattainable Sri Bhagwan be conquered by us. It does not matter whether one is a scholar or a fool. Whatever and wherever someone is, from his own position, it is essential that he simply engage in hearing transcendental harikatha from the lips of the sadhus. That harikatha has descended from Vaikuntha. At present we remain in a veiled condition within this realm of kuntha or anxiety. Therefore, if we start analyzing the scriptures through mental speculation, we will be deprived. When our deliberation on the scriptures is motivated by the desire to enjoy or the desire to attain liberation, it is tantamount to attempting to make the scriptures subordinate to ourselves. But the scriptures are the direct, non-different manifestation of Shri Krishna. Shri Krishna has said, Tad vidhi pranipaten, pariprashnen sevya, updekshyanti te jnana, jnaninas tattvadarshina. Bhagavad Gita 4.34. Acquire this knowledge by offering prostrated obeisances to a guru who imparts transcendental knowledge, by asking relevant questions from him and by rendering service to him. Those who have seen the truth, the Tattvadarshis, who are expert in the imports of Shastra, and the Jnanis who have realized absolute reality, will enlighten you with that knowledge. Endeavors to become the Lord are actually just karmakhand. When someone is overpowered with the intoxicating desire to become the Lord, his pretentious display of accepting the instructions of the scriptures leaves him deprived of their actual import, which never manifest for him. The real meaning of the scriptures only manifests for surrendered souls. It is written in the Vedic literature, Yasya deve para bhaktir, yatha deve tatha gura, tasyate kathitahe artha, prakashante mahatmana. Shvetashvatar Upanishad 6.23. The meaning of this verse is that all the deepest meanings of the scriptures become manifest for those who have, equally, the same implicit faith in and devotion for the spiritual master as they do for the Lord. Sriman Mahaprabhu has given the instruction, Trinad api sunichen taror api sahishnuna amanina manden kirtaniyah sadaharya. In other words, Harikirtan is only possible when one considers oneself to be lower than a blade of grass. If one harbors the desire to become even slightly distinguished, his desire will compel him to bid his performance of Kirtan farewell. Question 26. Who impels the living beings to act? Answer. Shri Vishnu alone is the governor and master of all living beings. Whatever activities the living entities perform, the Supreme Lord bestows the appropriate fruits of their actions. In accordance with the activities the living entity performed in his previous births, the Lord inspires in him the inclination to continue acting in a certain manner. Hence, the living soul is the dependent, instrumental entity, whereas the Lord is the entity who impels him to act. Since the living being is the doer of his own acts, he becomes eligible to receive specific results and engage in further acts thereafter. But it is the Supreme Lord who impels him to enjoy those fruits, whatever they may be, and engage in further acts. In short, the Supreme Lord bestows the fruits of action and the living soul enjoys them. Those who are averse to the Lord are impelled to act by the influence of his external, illusory potency, but his surrendered devotees are inspired to act by the Supreme Lord himself. Question 27. What is the difference between Shri Krishna and Shri Vishnu? Answer. From the perspective of Tattva, Krishna and Vishnu are essentially one and the same. They are both the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavad Tattva, the infinite whole, Purna Tattva, and the fountainhead of all energies, Shaktiman Tattva. When Shri Krishna, the embodiment of Madhurya, sweetness, appears instead as the very form of Aishwarya, majestic splendor and opulence, then he is Vishnu or Narayan. Shri Krishna has a two-armed form and holds the flute. Shri Vishnu has a four-armed form and holds a conch, disc, club and lotus flower. 60 virtuous qualities. Referring to the 64 qualities of Godhead, of which 50 are marginally present in the ordinary living beings, and 55 in the demigods. 5 reside in full within Shri Vishnu, while all 64 qualities are present in their absolute fullness within Shri Krishna. Shri Krishna can steal the heart of Lakshmi, but Narayan is not able to attract the hearts of the Vrajdevis, who are exclusively Shri Krishna beloveds. Shri Vishnu is served in 2.5 rasas, namely, neutrality, shant, servitorship, dasya, and a form of friendship that is partially stifled by reverence, gaurvasakhya. But Shri Krishna can be served in every respect and with utmost love and affection through all 5 rasas, namely, neutrality, servitorship, friendship unhindered by any feelings of inequality, vishrambhasakhya, parenthood, vatsalya, and divine, transcendental amour, madhurya, while regarding him as one's own husband, one's son, and so forth. Shri Krishna is the self-originative form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Swayamrup. Just as from one lamp all other lamps are lit, all the innumerable forms of Vishnu have manifested from him alone. Shri Krishna is the embodiment of Madhurya, sweetness, and Shri Vishnu is the embodiment of Aishwarya, majestic splendor and opulence. Although Shri Krishna is the Supreme Master of all that is, he does not conceive of himself in that way. His self-conception is as the son of Nand, the beloved of Radha, and so on. Shri Vishnu's self-conception, on the other hand, is as the Supreme Lord. Shri Vishnu is served through Vidhimarg, the path in which regulative principles are followed in accordance with the instructions of authentic scriptures, whereas Shri Krishna is served through Ragmarg, the path in which service is dictated by spontaneous attraction. Due to the presence of awe and reverence within service to Shri Vishnu, a mood of shyness remains in one's heart. But no shyness is exhibited by the residents of Vraj in their service to Shri Krishna. Question 28. Who is a Vaishnav? Answer. The servants of Shri Gurudev are Vaishnavas. Only those who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of a bona fide Guru by accepting initiation, Diksha, from him are Vaishnavas. Once Guru Bhakti is the gauge for determining the level of his Krishna Bhakti, or his Vaishnavta, his standing as a Vaishnav. One who relinquishes his Guru or is envious of him is not a Vaishnav, he is a Vaishnav, an atheist and a candidate for hellish life. He who is antagonistic toward the spiritual master, a Gurudrohi, is envious of the Supreme Lord and indeed of the whole world. The only pure devotees, Shuddha Bhaktas, are those devotees who are selfless and who possess Gurunistha, immovable faith in and dedication to Shri Guru. Thus it is said, Kamini Pratishtha Badhini, Chhadiya Che Jare, say to Vaishnav, say Anasakta, say Shuddha Bhakta, Sansar Tatha Pai Parabhav. The desire for money, women and fame is compared to a tigress. Verily, a Vaishnav is he who has relinquished such desires. Only one such as him can be called detached and a pure devotee, Shuddha Bhakt. None but him can truly overcome material existence. Question 29. Is there any means of attaining spiritual welfare other than rendering service to Shri Bhagwan? Answer. Certainly not. Upon becoming averse to Krishna, the living entity will pursue the path of yoga and accept Paramatma as the supreme reality, or he will pursue the path of impersonal knowledge and consider the impersonal, undifferentiated and all-pervasive spirit, Brahma, to be the supreme reality. Pursuing these paths cannot bestow any welfare upon him. In contrast, service to Sri Bhagwan awards Bhagwan himself. Without service to Bhagwan, the living soul cannot attain any auspiciousness. Bhagwan is not an entity we must merely attain proximity to, rather he is the object of our eternal service, Nityasevya Vastu. Engaging in mundane worldly discussions is indicative of a lack of eagerness to hear topics related to Bhagwan. But the discussion of topics related to Bhagwan itself instills in us that very eagerness. If one does not achieve the state of liberation while still in his present body, Jivan Mukta, then he will be bound to take another birth. In unfavorable association, that is, while remaining averse to Hariktha, the desire to attain deliverance from that burden, from the suffering of material existence, does not even arise. And even if the desire is present, it is motivated by the hope of gaining personal happiness. Service to Bhagwan is not the same as the desire or search for personal happiness. The desire to seek personal happiness is nothing but attachment to selfishness. Those who desire material sense enjoyment and those who desire impersonal liberation both search for their own happiness. Consequently, Bhagwan favors neither he who is engaged in sense gratification nor the false renunciant. Such persons are only favored by the material potency of Bhagwan, which bewilders the antagonists. Bhagwan, the master of the material potency, only personally favors those who are surrendered to him in every respect and who are engaged in searching for ways to please him. We must gain emancipation by becoming Gurudevtatma, he who perceives his Guru as his Lord and as dear as his very soul, and thereby serving Sri Guru without duplicity. Only then will we be able to achieve pure and sublime service. This most elevated transcendental service cannot be obtained unless one becomes liberated. We must constantly engage in chanting the holy names under the guidance of Sri Guru. We must always remember that Krishna Bhajan is constituted solely of Nam Bhajan. The term Bhajan in the mature state refers to a profound condition of divine internal worship wherein the liberated soul can engage in direct service to the Supreme Lord. 6. Indeed, one will achieve all perfection by serving the holy name, Shri Nam. The subject matter of the topmost realm of bhajan can only be comprehended by serving Shri Nam. Translated from Shri Prabhupada Updeshamrit. Questions renumbered for the monthly online editions. CC by Race of the Harmonist No.TWNT-1, Gaur Purnim 2010. The Nature of True Devotees. By Shri Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. Devotion to God is attained by associating with those who serve both Him and His devotees. They have made service to God the very essence of their life. They have made the narrations of the names, appearance, attributes and sports of God the mainstay of their existence, and they are always engaged in discoursing about them. Not only is there a great difference between how the common man deliberates upon God and how the devotee deliberates upon Him, but the very natures of these two kinds of deliberation are quite opposite. Among the common people, many are inclined to worship God, whom they know to be the giver of mundane and celestial pleasure and happiness. Those who are more intelligent, however, that is, those who outwardly present themselves as renunciants but remain the topmost enjoyers at heart, pretend to worship God with the purpose of becoming equal to God, who is the supreme enjoyer, and merging in Him. Those situated midway between these two classes worship God with the intention of acquiring the 8 modes of supernatural power, such as the power to become smaller than an atom and the power to become weightless in order to fulfill their own desires. Although they pretentiously show themselves to be worshippers of God, they never admit the eternality of God's names, appearance and so forth. They regard the Supreme Master of all to be governed by karma. These so-called worshippers do not serve God with the particular aim of serving and pleasing Him. On the contrary, they make the Lord serve them. The nature of true devotees is different from theirs. They do not expect, nor do they regard as necessary, the attainment of pleasure for the body and home in this world or in the next. Nor do they regard as important the attainment of emancipation, which is so highly praised as the ultimate attainment for man. True devotees serve God by their very nature, by their every thought and by every sentiment of their heart. This strong propensity in them does not yield to any obstruction but runs with impetuosity, forcibly removing all the obstacles before it. It is just like the swift and turbulent current of the river Ganga, which rapidly runs towards the sea, inundating all high and low resistance, undergoing no disaster and never abating at any point to take rest. The devotees are ever engaged in the service of God. No tendency towards anything else, no other thought or deed besides that service, finds any opportunity to cast its shadow over the souls of those bhakti-yogis, who are incessantly communing with God and are entirely dedicated to Him. Out of pure love, the devoted servitors of God are ever engaged in offering service to Him and to His devotees. They have no vitality to devote to their bodies, to those who are related to their bodies like their wives or sons, to their home, to all those who are related to these, to domestic beasts and birds, or to their occupation, class and so forth. Having fallen in love with the Lord of their life, who is the very life of their lives and the life of all, they have surrendered themselves to Him with all their energy. Such devotees, dedicating their very selves to God, have made Him alone the quintessence of all their ambitions. And He, too, having been arrested by their devotion, has made them His essential companions, even though He Himself is the most essential being for all. Adapted from the Gaudiya Volume 25, Number 5. CC by Sa Race of the Harmonist No.TWNT-1, Gaur Purnim 2010. Unalloyed Theism. Shri Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. Among all the sentient entities who interact with this phenomenal world, man holds the supreme position, and he entertains the hope of remaining in such a position into the future, even after the transmutation of his present tabernacle. The quality of rationality is associated with man, who harbors the hope that, as much as possible, he may use his faculty of discrimination in the most appropriate fashion. We know we are dependent upon other rational entities for our own rational activities to find real display. Such dependence is an inseparable element of our being. Yet in spite of that, our ego ceaselessly tries to dispel all the discomforts of the mundane atmosphere by compelling us to exercise some intrinsic power of our own. We are all endowed with material senses, and these have no other predilection than to secure felicities in every transaction. Indeed, when we examine an individual case, we find that the impetus to gratify our senses is our principal characteristic. This feature, found in so many of us, often promotes further desires to seek out our own gratification from our fellows in this world. When, in search of sensuous pleasures, we instead put ourselves into difficulty and expect others to come to our aid, then we ought, thereafter, to make some effort to contribute to social harmony. And yet, if we suppress our proclivity to encroach upon our friends and fellows in this world, we cannot live. Still, the social mandate to control our senses dominates all of our decisions by virtue of our concern for civic principles. Hence, while autonomy is felt as a desirable factor for happiness in life, we find ourselves quite restricted in our movements. We must now depend upon the Absolute to guide us toward a harmonious solution to this quandary. The pressure of our need for happiness obliges us to rationally reflect upon the merits and demerits of our situation. In such rational reflection, we take notice that all phenomenal representations can be traced to some original source. Yet even then, we become dissatisfied with the notion that this universal, demonstrative aspect is itself a holy shelter, full of all the supplies we need. We therefore revert to our previous mode of rational reflection in an attempt to uncover the still hidden treasure behind all exoteric manifestations. The esoteric fountainhead perpetually supersedes the handicaps of the phenomenal region. Hence, when he comes before our vision, we are compelled to consider his situation. He is eternal, blissful knowledge, transcendent to all regions of mental speculation. Nevertheless, upon hearing that this Oversoul proclaims to incorporate none but pure, uncontaminated souls into the midst of his harmonious plane, we may become agitated by the subsequent speculations of our mind. Why should that Supreme Soul, the principal transcendental object, not imbibe the all-encompassing conception? That is to say, why should he not include both non-matter and matter, both the part and the whole, and why should he not incorporate both ends of the continuum of variegated realities? Yet, the fact is, this very same faculty of our mind for speculating will also lead us to give credence to the theory that God is identical with everything, a theory of which the principal trait is total negation of every kind of phenomena. Individuation is a necessary element in me, as it is in everyone. I find that the individual situations of all of us are the subject matter of our reciprocal activities. Such individual situations are numerous, and with their varied dispositions within the scope of our present experience of phenomenal existence, they are found to be rapturous. Should there not be some underlying bond amidst such a multitude of positions? To accomplish the same, we often jump into ideas of impersonal reality and dissociative relativities. Perceiving absolute oneness in this way, mundane persons thus demonstrate the conceited apathy innate in their conception, which is tantamount to jealousy of the position of the Absolute Being. Just to pacify them, the Absolute Being then presents them with his aspect of infinitude, which is beyond all mundane, restrictive designations in terms of time and space. Factually, our restricted perspective in relation to the phenomenal domain should not be imposed on the personality of a thoroughly independent integer. The personality of Godhead is to be humbly approached, not subjected to our sensuous inspection, as though he were an accused in the court. We should accept that all existences are, and ought to be, his own. This method of approach is known as unalloyed theism. Adapted from the Gaudiya Volume 25, Number 10. CC by Sa Race of the Harmonist No.TWNT-1, Gaur Purnim 2010. What Sri Chaitanya meant by theism. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. The Supreme Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya has asked all sections of the people of this world not to tamper with or mutilate the absolute truth with their crippled attempts to regulate him, but rather to approach him with an absolutely clean and sincere heart, in which his own feature will be revealed. He may then show his various manifestive aspects in accordance with the eligibility of the person approaching him. The Supreme Lord has mercifully disclosed the name of the true object of pure theism, Shri Krishna. The conception of an impersonal God, devoid of all attributes and stripped of all varieties of potency, is included in the conception of Sri Krishna as one of his partial features where all sorts of perceivable attributes are eliminated. Sri Krishna Chaitanya has lucidly demonstrated to the people what he meant by theism. We find that he has thoroughly revealed to us the conception of various types of transcendental, unalloyed service to the Supreme Absolute Sri Krishna, as well as a special type of service which was hitherto quite unknown to theists. He has revealed that special type of service to people everywhere. Theism, before he disclosed this, was conceived as being confined exclusively to reverence and regulative principles. Sri Krishna Chaitanya has taught us that we may approach Sri Krishna with unconditional service in all sorts of ways, and he has shown us the excellence of the most confidential relationship between Godhead and human souls in comparison to other relationships with him. Until his time, we were quite familiar with the idea of approaching Sri Krishna only through the other principles of devotion, simply by worshipping him, leaving aside the most attractive aspect of rendering service to the Lord. The omnipotence and omniscience of the Supreme, which are his secondary aspects, had been prominent in the conception of theists. As such, we had been thinking that service to the object of our worship should be performed by the upper part of the body, and that the lower part of our transcendental eternal body. The transcendental eternal body is called the Aprakrit Siddhadeha. It is comprised entirely of Satanand, eternality, knowledge and bliss, and therefore has no connection with gross or subtle matter. One could not possibly offer any acceptable service to the Beloved. We had been neglecting our existence as a transcendental, albeit infinitesimal, entity called the soul residing within the external frame and within the astral body. Consequently, up to that time, we had been confounding ourselves with a philosophy that was no more than mental speculation. We were perpetually restricted by external views of the world, and we avoided cognizance of our pure identity, which is meant for rendering eternal service to He who is the transcendental object, the Supreme Sentient Being, and the eternal Oversoul. The level of theism that we had reached at that time was therefore not sufficiently elevated, and higher aspects of service to the Lord, such as serving Godhead as a close and confidential friend, as a son, and as a consort, were thus hidden from us. Thus we had merely been keeping transitory relationships with the perishable objects of this world. But our theism should not restrict our vision, and cause us to ignore the confidential service which can be rendered by the free human soul to Sri Krishna. Until now, we were not convinced about the existence of the Oversoul and his existential position, that Sri Krishna alone, in all his aspects, should be the object of our devotion. We find that unless the Supreme Absolute, Sri Krishna, kindly graces us by becoming the willing recipient of our service, we cannot render all varieties of confidential service to him. And in any other aspect of Krishna, such as Matsya, Varah, Nisingh, Vaman and Ram, the depth of our reverential activities is rather limited. Here, even in this perverted world, people can offer their confidential services in any of the 5 rasas. The 5 rasas, or the 5 overwhelmingly Nectarian modes of identity in eternal service, are 1. Shantaras, the mood of serene reverence or passive, but unwavering faith in Godhead. 2. Dasyaras, the mood of loving service. 3. Sakhyaras, the mood of deep camaraderie. 4. Vatsalyaras, the mood of unconditional nurturanche as in a mother to her dependent child. 5. Madhuryaras, the mood of immaculate, transcendent and selfless amour. 2. Shri Krishna and no other is the Chentre, the very fountainhead of all divinity whom we can lovingly satisfy with all aspects of our confidential service. Shri Krishna is Akhilar Samrit Murti, that is, he is the fountainhead of all rasas, and we can approach him in any one of his 5 different reciprocal features. By performing all our activities for him with the body of our transcendental soul, we can offer him our eternal service in one of these 5 features, whereas, in reciprocation with other forms of Godhead, we cannot offer such confidential service. Adapted from the Gaudiya Volume 25, Number 11. CC by Sa Race of the Harmonist No.TWNT-1, Gaur Purnim 2010. Shri Krishna does not deny anyone. Shri Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. In the case of Lord Ramchandra, we cannot offer our services in all the 5 different aspects. He cannot stand as our consort, because if he were to do so, Sita might attest that her devoted husband Ramchandra had crossed the limits of his own ethical principles. Moreover, Sita would never allow any other soul the privilege of rendering that sort of service to Ramchandra. We find the best example of this in the Dandkaranya rishis who approached Ramchandra. Ramchandra did not accept them because, for one, they had male forms, and second, he was devoted to only one wife. In other words, for fear of violating his ethical principles, he could not accept service in the mode of consorthood from them. While Ramchandra could only accept services in modes other than consorthood from Lakshman and others, Shri Krishna, who is eternally lovable, is very naturally referred to as Bahuvallabh, the dearmost lover of many. Shri Krishna can accommodate hundreds of dependents as his consorts, whereas Ramchandra can only welcome dependents in 4 modes, namely, his parents, his brothers and friends, his servants, and the neutral subjects of his realm, who render unalloyed service to him. All others, except Sita, are barred from offering any confidential, loving service to Ramchandra as his consort. But in Shri Krishna we find that there is no such restriction. Every soul can offer all sorts of unalloyed confidential services to Shri Krishna. Moreover, we find that Shri Krishna verily welcomes every soul. He does not deny anyone. Shri Krishna personally always wants his devotees to accept him in the mode of consorthood. Indeed, he admits every servant of his who has truly got the capacity to approach him in any of these most exalted moods and positions, and yet he never allows any of his temporary pseudo-servants to keep the corresponding sorts of mundane relationships with each other. The progress of any soul towards such confidential, loving services to the Oversoul is never hindered, provided the Lord is convinced that, remaining ever subservient to his predominated counter-whole, that soul can truly offer this kind of service to him. Truly, Shri Krishna never restrains us from rendering any sort of confidential, loving service that, in our unconditioned stage, we are bent upon offering him. However, we would be barred from offering such services to him in his other aspects, either because our mental approach would then be somehow tainted or because it would have been arrived at through flawed speculations. If we independent souls give up the kind of worship that emerges from our own mental speculations, if we can have a wider and larger scope, then we can easily approach the transcendental being with all of our earnest and sincere endeavors. And he shall not deny anyone nor allow anyone to continue engagements that are meant for some other aspect of him, inasmuch as he is the one who shall always enchant our soul. So we should scrutinize most minutely whether we should at all utilize and engage some limbs for our personal benefits and some portion of our transcendental body for Godhead. But the real truth is that all of our engagements, the whole of our occupation, may be engaged for Shri Krishna. We do not have this rarest fortune, the fortune of engaging our whole being in such pure perfection, in any other aspect of Godhead. Shri Krishna Chaitanya has not taught us any anthropomorphic concept. Ordinary people might think that they can indulge in carrying conceptualizations born from the material nature of this world into that transcendental realm, but such anthropomorphic ideas are never enjoined or entertained by Sri Krishna Chaitanya. All we must know is that Godhead is the full, complete and perfect being, and that no partial or crippled features are anywhere to be found in his person. We must not think that all that we have in this world, all that might be feasible or practicable or even ethical here, should be carried along with us to a region where imperfect acquisitions are not wanted. We have no such ambition. Adapted from the Gaudiya Volume 25, Number 12. CC by Rays of the Harmonist No.TWNT-1, Gaur Purnim 2010. The One Absolute. Shri Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. Shri Krishna Chaitanya told us that we should first acquire self-determination, without which we will mistake the mind for the soul. Mind is quite different from soul. The mind conducts all the activities of the physical plane. It receives impressions from nature through the medium of the senses and through the functions of our body, that is, through the mind's interfacing with external objects, which are made of matter. Although we are habitually occupied with matter, when we begin to study theism, that is, when we inquire about the actual figure of Godhead, we find within the 4 seed verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaturshloki Bhagavatam, the words that the Absolute Fountainhead spoke to Lord Brahma, the creator of this material universe. If I am to bestow my mercy upon anyone, I must reveal myself to him fully. Those with wayward aspirations and minds that tend to speculate will be debarred from attaining unosturate perception of my actual size, figure and cholor. If I do not confer my mercy upon them, they will simply miss me altogether. In light of this, Sri Krishna Chaitanya has disparaged all mundane thinkers, who are busy with grand philosophies or diligently adhering to their mundane ethics, along with all those who propagate their own humanitarian enterprises. We find in the writings of our Acharya that, in essence, no one should wrongly consider that when we speak of Sri Krishna we are speaking of an entity who is wholly different from Sri Ramchandra. The fact that we talk of Sri Krishna does not mean we are differentiating between Sri Krishna and Sri Ramchandra, for Sri Ramchandra and Sri Krishna are not essentially different entities. They are identical. But just as in this world, the perverted reflection of the transcendental plane, we find that a single man considers himself to be the father of one person, the son of another and the physician of someone else. In the transcendental realm, also, we find that the same, one absolute appears in manifold aspects. So let no one imagine that we are talking of wholly different objects when we mention the avatars. Vasudev is the same as Lakshmi Narayan. Lakshmi Narayan is identical with Sitaram. Sitaram is the same as Radhakrishna. We do not find any differences between them. There should not be any controversy in this matter, and, aside from their respective planes of ras, there is no scope to draw a distinction between Sri Krishna and Sri Ram. We simply want to appreciate the respective positions of the One Absolute, and we have no ambition to change our position. Still, we must strive to render all possible confidential services to the Oversoul, and there is no harm in this. Yet in relation to Ramchandra we find that in one kind of worship all of our activities cannot be 100% engaged for him. In another only some portion of our activities are engaged in serving the entity of our adoration, while the other portion is kept aside for our selfish, personal use. These kinds of worship are not perfectly selfless. We often find in this world that a man believes himself to be the master of a range of subordinate properties. He proclaims, "I have many servants, I have a large estate, I have great learning, and so forth. It would not really be compatible with human nature were a man to confine himself to a single aspect of an entity, for then he would have nothing to do with the other aspects of that same entity. If we were to cast aside all of that one integer's awe-inspiring and majestic attributes apart from his absolute blissfulness and his absolute ecstatic beauty, we would be known to have advanced quite far in our theistic aspirations for that fullest form. So when we approach Sri Krishna we find that all sorts of aspects are fully in him and we can offer all sorts of confidential services to him with our transcendental and eternal body. We can offer ourselves to him in all ways with the closest intimacy. We must not think that restricting ourselves to a particular aspect shall result in a quarrel with someone involved in another school of thought or philosophy, or that it shall result in some other religious controversy. There shall be little scope for that since our attention should, at all times, be 100% devoted to him and his counter whole. This is the general outline of the teachings of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya. Lord Krishna Chaitanya is the combined personality of the predominating and predominated moieties of the Absolute. We, the individual souls, are endowed with a mixed aptitude. Our consciousness possesses a twofold potentiality. It becomes cognizant of material categories, but it is open to the influence of the spiritual as distinguished from the mundane. Lord Chaitanya is our only support and the source of our animation. He is the only object of our worship. As a matter of fact, every activity of ours owes its possibility and existence to his initiative and works as a natural result of his own activities. Lord Chaitanya displays the pastime of seeking himself. All through his manifestation, he is found most anxiously devoted to the exclusive quest for the absolute Godhead, his predominating moiety, Shri Krishna. We, his eternal proteges, are conditioned to follow his lead in this matter. And if we do follow him, we shall be doing the right thing. By following him we will obtain knowledge of the realm of the Absolute. We will no longer have to remain trapped within the narrow scope of the material dimensions. Yet we are handicapped by our mixed aptitude. We have the option of becoming involved with the spiritual, but we also have the option of meddling with the material. As soon as we indulge this mixed aptitude by mistaking it to be our real function, our progress toward the Absolute is obstructed and we find ourselves subjected, for the most part, to insurmountable disqualifications. These disqualifications have been analyzed and classified under 4 groups: the tendency to commit mistakes, bhram, inadvertence, pramad, deception, vipralipsa, and limited, imperfect senses, karnapatav. These are very serious defects. They make it impossible for us to obtain even a glimpse of transcendence. Hence there arises the compelling necessity of seeking the help of those who are free from those defects. The functioning of our present senses does not give us any knowledge of the whole truth. On the contrary, it always keeps us away from the full, eternal, blissful being. We are prevented from full access to uninterrupted existence, uninterrupted knowledge and unbliss. Although these constitute the reality to be gained by the exercise of our present facilities, we obtain instead the so-called knowledge of the things of this world. We perceive matter alone, and we can imagine a state of material negation, yet neither of these is reality proper. We cannot avoid the existence of distinctions, but we shall necessarily entertain any thesis we may encounter regarding distinctive entities under the operation of the 4-fold defects mentioned above. It is, however, incumbent on us to try to be perfectly free from those defects. Methods based on sense experience are useless for this end, for they can never free us from those defects. Those who rely upon the resources of mind express themselves through language. The words exchanged between such people are more or less defective and mutually contradictory. The experience of a particular moment is different from true experience. We are trying to gain admission into the realm of true experience, and we hanker to make progress in such experience. It is our purpose thereby to fall in love with the real entity. This is the supreme goal. Adapted from the Gaudiya Volume 26, Number 3, 4. CC by Sa Race of the Harmonist No.TWNT-1, Gaur Purnim 2010. The means of attaining welfare when sadhusang is far away. A letter by Shri Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. Shri Chaitanya Math, Shri Mayapur, 22nd December 1927. In the letter published in Shri Prabhupada Patravali, the recipient was kept anonymous. Yesterday, I received your letter from, the name of the messenger was also kept anonymous. I also received a letter from you many days ago, even before I went to the western districts, but I could not reply to it in time due to my travels there. You can find out about the festivals and programmes that were held in various places in the western districts by reading the Gaudiya. Gaudiya was a weekly periodical published in Bengali. It was founded by Shri Prabhupada and boldly propounded the Rupanuk Gaudiya conception. One magazine or by hearing from the devotees. Righteous people everywhere are becoming joyful and satisfied by hearing the message of Shriman Mahaprabhu. For the devotees of Bhagwan, Shri Navadvip Dham is a place of utmost reverence. Every place in this Dham awakens remembrance of Bhagwan within one's heart. For this reason, I especially desire to live here for a few more days. But according to what is necessary for the sake of service to Shri Hari, I shall have to travel to other places, like Calcutta. Shriman Mahaprabhu is extremely merciful. He has therefore arranged that so many devotees are present even in a place like Calcutta. In Shri Gaudiya Math, Harikatha, discussion of Lord Hari flows constantly and everyone has become intoxicated by their intense engagement in service. It is most appropriate for me to thoroughly embrace such association for the rest of my life, like when Shri Parikshit Maharaj heard Srimad Bhagavatam for the last days of his life. In these last days of my life, a place devoid of Harikatha, even if it were occupied by all my kith and kin and full of all material comforts, seems utterly undesirable to me. By the mercy of the Supreme Lord, seeing how the inclination to devotedly serve Bhagwan is present within all the mathas, I constantly think of the benevolence of Shriman Mahaprabhu. I once spent my life preferring to drink the happiness that is derived from the objects of material sense perception, but today, wherever I go, I am able to serve Shri Bhagwan and gain the association of his devotees. By spending however many days we have left of our lives like this, we shall never live in misery by becoming averse to Shri Hari. You are not hearing enough Harikatha from the lips of the devotees, who are inclined toward serving Shri Bhagwan and who are wrapped in Haribhajan. Because of this, you do not appreciate your good fortune. However, the fact that you constantly remain inclined to serve Shri Hari keeps you aloof from adverse association. When you are on your own, you should always read the Gaudiya and the devotional literatures written by other Vaishnavas. This will, in itself, enable you to reap the benefit of listening to Harikatha from the lips of the devotees. While living on this earth, we do not get the direct association of many devotees from the transcendental realm. But because the conversations and pastimes of the devotees who were present during the manifest pastimes of Sriman Mahaprabhu perpetually exist in the form of sacred texts, granthas, and sound vibration, shabd or words, we do not feel so much pain in our worldly troubles. If in this world, we live amidst the discussion and message of the transcendental world, our reflections on that message will keep us aloof from worldly pain. No matter where you find yourself, that divine Harikatha will never abandon you. To be sure, you will even remember Bhagwan and comprehend the topic of bhakti within all the things of this world. By the sublime will of the Lord, I may again have the opportunity to visit all these places in the western districts, and you would again get the chance to listen to Harikatha. But it is certainly appropriate for a devotee to forget his misery and live in whatever condition Bhagwan is pleased to keep him in. The ordinary people of this material world cannot understand the divine message of Bhagwan, of Sriman Mahaprabhu, or of the transcendent nature and qualities of his devotees. Only when the inclination to serve Bhagwan arises in one's heart can one remember Sri Hari under all circumstances. Since you are always therein for your spiritual ail, Bhagwan is manifesting all of his transcendental narrations, the message of Godhead, within your heart through the medium of the devotional literatures. It is written in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Yat dekh Vaishnave, Vyavhar Dulhak, Nishchay Janeh Se, Paranand Sukh. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhyakhand, 9.240. Know this for certain, whatever you may perceive as ordinary misery in a Vaishnav is in fact his greatest joy. So that he may test us, within this world Bhagwan always remains hidden. Our superficial perception can only diminish by comprehending his presence underlying everything. Padya pai se leela kare Gaur Rai. Kaun bhagyavne dekhibare pai. Even today, Gaur Rai is performing his pastimes, but only a few most fortunate souls can see them. When will that most fortunate day come for us when we all become travelers on the path of bhakti by following in the footsteps of Sri Gaur Sundar in every respect? This world is but a place where the Supreme Lord examines us. To excel in that examination one must hear Kirtan of Hari performed by his devotees. And you are hearing that Kirtan through the medium of devotional literature. Therefore, it is by no means appropriate for you to consider yourself deprived. Once, a long time ago, Hiranyakshipu declared everywhere that Bhagwan does not exist in this world. On many occasions he brutally confronted his son Prahlad in an attempt to force him to accept this conclusion. But then Sri Nrsimhadev emerged from within a pillar and generated spiritual welfare for Hiranyakshipu and the entire world. The devotees of the Lord perceive their Lord at all times and in all things, but those who are envious of him cannot even comprehend that he exists at all. We who are situated somewhere in between are sometimes inclined towards devotional service to Hari, but the very next moment we absorb ourselves in sense gratification. Due solely to our desire to engage in devotional service, we will gradually escape our entanglement in all forms of material sense enjoyment. Fleeting happiness and distress is always present in mundane sense gratification, but devotional service, bhakti, which is eternal, gives bliss to Bhagwan. With the aim of giving that bliss to Bhagwan, we can remain perpetually engaged in his service. I am not sure whether or not you will get any instantaneous benefit by reading this detailed letter. My communication skills are extremely poor. Since I am not able to make everything understandable to everyone, I often remain silent. Here in Sri Chaitanya Math all the activities have begun that are necessary before the commencement of the festival. Your eternal well-wisher, Shri Siddhant Saraswati. Translated from Shri Prabhupadir Patravali. CC by Sa Race of the Harmonist No.TWNT-1, Gaur Purnim 2010. Shri Bhagwan is not for the weak-hearted. A letter from Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. Shri Keshavji Gaudiya Math. Kansteel, Mathura. November 23, 1960. Shri Shri Guru Gaurang Jayatah. In the letter published in Gaudiya Patrika, the recipient was kept anonymous. I have read your letters dated October 17 and November 14 and became especially pleased to learn from them that you are inclined to receive training in accordance with the principles enunciated in the revealed scriptures. Swayam Bhagwan Shri Gaur Sundar has said, Kirtaniya Sada Hariyah, always chant the glories of Shri Hari. And Shastra states, Kalo Tadahari Kirtanat, in the age of Kali, deliverance is only achieved by performing Hari Kirtan. The significance of these statements is that the only way to become freed from material bondage is through the culture of Hari Kirtan. That is to say, only by discussing the glories and message of Shri Hari can all living beings become liberated and thus qualified to serve Shri Bhagwan. It is a source of deep happiness for me that you are always performing Kirtan by discussing Harikatha with everyone in a way that is appropriate according to time, place and circumstance. You must fearlessly speak the message of Shri Hari. In the teachings of Shriman Mahaprabhu we will not find even the slightest trace of diversion from scripture, nor any poor logic or inconsistency. All other propagators of religion, namely so-called religious sampradayas, schools of thought, and their acharyas, chief preceptors, have attained, or yearn to attain, fame and reputation in modern society by presenting their fanciful speculations, whether narrow or broad. But their opinions oppose the conclusions of scripture and lack logic. Therefore, it is absolutely essential to speak the truth courageously. Shri Bhagwan is not for the weak-hearted. In the Mundak Upanishad 1.6.4, it has been said, Nayamatma Balhinen Labhyah, the absolute reality, that supreme soul, is not accessible to those who have no spiritual strength. But cowards manipulate religion with false interpretations, proclaiming all are correct, and thus reveal the feebleness of their conception of bhajan. You must rigorously protest against these spurious assertions. If necessary, I am personally ready to discuss this in an open forum. You may inquire of those who attempt to assert that the featureless, impersonal Brahma, that is, the undifferentiated, all-pervading spirit, is the supreme absolute truth, Tattva. Why is it so often seen in scripture that the word Brahma has been prefixed with Para, supreme absolute? The name Brahm is employed to indicate a higher Tattva, or existential truth, than just impersonal Brahma. In other words, it points us toward the supreme, absolute entity. Hence, impersonal Brahma is not Tattva, the supreme absolute truth. I will discuss this with you further when we meet. Knowledge of impersonal Brahma is knowledge of the negated aspect of Bhagwan, while knowledge of Bhagwan, the Supreme Person Himself, is knowledge of the positive aspect. Ideas pertaining to negation have no intrinsic value. Shri Krishna himself spoke Bhagavad Gita, and Shri Krishna himself is the refuge of the all-pervading spirit, Brahma, Brahmano Hai Pratisthaham, I am the basis and shelter of Brahma, Bhagavad Gita 14.27. You ought to make people thoroughly understand this statement. The word Vishnu appears in many places throughout the Vedas, and every single Brahman priest utters this transcendental name every time he sanctifies himself with water. Still, when demoniac people hear the name Vishnu, they are filled with fear. I cannot fully elaborate on this topic within the scope of this letter. Regarding your last question, if someone wants to enter worldly life, he must surely gain some kind of knowledge for the sake of earning his livelihood. But the topmost knowledge, of course, is all auspicious spiritual knowledge. I conclude here. With blessings, Shri Bhakti Pragyan Keshav. Translated from Shri Gaudiya Patrika Year 28, Issue 3. CC by Rays of the Harmonist No.TWNT-1, Gaur Purnim 2010. Is human misery a pastime of God? By Shri Srimad Bhaktivedant Swami Maharaj. Is God responsible for all the varieties of misery that man must face or not? When A. Swami, who is a regular visitor to Delhi, was asked this question by the good Dr. Sarm, he presented his answer in front of everyone in the assembly. The miseries visible in human life, whatever they may be, are all a pastime of the Lord. Dr. Sarm lives and practices medicine in Delhi. He is a keen seeker of truth and an avid reader of Our Back to Godhead magazine, and he often inquires from me on a variety of topics. The good doctor found the Swami answer to his question completely unsatisfying. He countered by saying that if all of a person's activities are to be considered a pastime of the Lord, then why is it said that man must experience the results of his own pious and sinful activities? When the Swami attempted to justify his explanation simply by repeating the same phrase, "It is all a pastime of the Lord," Dr. Sarm exclaimed, in the midst of that assembly, "I am not satisfied with your answer." The common people in the audience were simply listening to their arguments. No one could understand the essence of the topic, nor did anyone even try to understand it. On many occasions we, too, come across this question, which is ever stirring in the human mind. Why did God create so much misery in this world? Is it all His pastime? The truth, though, is quite different from what this question implies. Among all the meaningless obstacles that monists have created in this world by conceiving of God and the living entity as existing in total oneness, none is more severe than the introduction of this particular type of doubt. The activities of souls that are imprisoned by the material energy are mundane. But these impersonalists, on account of their claim that God and the living being exist in total oneness, are obliged to attribute such mundane activities to the pastimes of God. Without doing so, they would not be able to reconcile their statements like God is in distress or God is begging alms. Therefore, it is not possible to support the doctrine of impersonalism, a doctrine which completely destroys one's spiritual life, without concocting the alleged divine theologies that are conveyed by statements such as Narayan has become impoverished to enact the pastime of begging, Narayan has become a pig to enact the pastime of feeding on stool. The Supreme Spirit in the form of deliciously prepared chicken eggs is reposed within the belly of that same Supreme Spirit in the form of a holy mendicant, and the like. It is for this reason that Shriman Mahaprabhu clearly stated, Mayavadi bhashya shunile hai sarvanash. Hearing the commentary of a Mayavadi completely destroys one's spiritual life. As long as this form of artificial spiritualism, known as impersonalism, is not expelled from this world, the common man shall not be able to comprehend Shri Krishna identity, nor his name, qualities, and so forth. Foolish people readily accept such malformed theologies simply because they are sold out to their sect, but they are unable to comprehend the real implication of their conception. What else could be the fate of a common man who keeps the harmful association, a satsang of the impersonalists, but to be misled and converted to atheism, only to engage in mere sense gratification? Translated from Shri Gaudiya Patrika Year 9, Issue 11, 1958. Excerpt from Shri Krishna Leela and Mundane Sense Gratification, Rays of the Harmonist, Kartik, 2009. CC by Rays of the Harmonist No.TWNT-1, Gaur Purnim 2010. Shri Hari, Guru and Vaishnavas are moved by our emotions. A letter from Shri Srimad Bhaktivedant Vaman Goswami Maharaj. Shri Vasudev Gaudiya Math. Postal Vasugashт, Goyalpada, Assam. 21 September 1979. Shri Shri Guru Gaurang Jayatah. In the letter published in Shri Srimad Bhaktivedant Vaman Goswami Maharaj Patravali, the recipient was kept anonymous. I received a letter from you many days ago. I should have replied to your warm letter much sooner. Forgive me for failing to reply in a timely manner. Your weeping is so overwhelming that it breaks everyone's heart. In your letter you referred to yourself as my fallen daughter. In the shower of your tears, even the heart of a stone-hearted person like me is torn asunder. Shri Bhagwan shall fulfill your heart's desires. Protect your great enthusiasm and forbearance within your heart. If you envision the smiling faces of Shri Gurudev and the Vaishnavas and remember their instructions and teachings, you will find peace of mind at all times, in all circumstances. I came to Krishnanagar for the occasion of the deity installation, which was held on Akshaya Tritiya in the month of Vaishakh, May, but at that time I had no chance to converse with you properly. It seems, therefore, that you have become dissatisfied with me. I hope that after understanding the gravity of my situation on that occasion, you have forgiven me. At that time, I presumed that perhaps you were angry with me and hurt, but upon receiving your letter my presumption was proved wrong. Because you always weep, to console you I am always saying, O mother, please do not cry, Shri Bhagwan shall certainly bestow auspiciousness upon you. Do not feel upset that you have no monetary fortune, and therefore cannot donate anything for service. One serves Shri Hari and Guru through one's wealth, words, mind and one's very spirit, pran. Those who do not have wealth should serve with their words, mind and spirit. To surrender one's mind and spirit to Shri Gurudev and Bhagwan is the most excellent donation, for the mind and spirit are the supreme forms of wealth. If you are able to anxiously cry to Shri Gurudev and Bhagwan, you shall obtain the fruit of donating everything. And in that fruit your heart shall find joy and peace. You wrote truthfully when you explained that in this world you cannot call anyone your own except for Guru, Vaishnavas and Bhagwan. If we make them our own, only then will our lives be successful and all of our efforts blessed. Therefore, the Mahajans have said, Tav Nijjan, Param Bandhav, Sansar Karagare, your personal associates are our dearest relatives and greatest friends in this jailhouse of material existence. It is essential to realize this deep down in our hearts. Affection and loving possessiveness cannot be displayed in front of just anyone, for they are the exchange of emotions of the heart. For this reason, even tears of devotion often become the cause of criticism and misinterpretation if they are shed in the presence of ordinary people. Those very tears give many people an opportunity to falsely judge you, to misunderstand you and so on. Therefore, in matters of Haribjan, specific instructions have been provided regarding proper times, places and circumstances. Shri Guru, the Vaishnavas and Bhagwan are present within the heart. They know and embrace the emotions we feel for them. Therefore, whether we cry in front of them or out of their sight, our every cry truly reaches them. Shri Bhagwan sat down for his meal in Dwarka. Rukmini Devi was serving him, but at that moment in Kamevan, within Vrindavan, Draupadi cry reached him from over 1,000 miles away. Cf. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.15.11, wherein the Lord saves the Pandavas from incurring Durvasa Rishi wrath. 1978 was the year your assets were lost. You wrote that you have undergone punishments comparable to residing in hell. As long as this body remains, pain and sorrow, sickness and disease, and suffering and torment will surely also remain. Most likely, you only went to the hospital because you were bound to. What you wrote is true, hospitals are like lakes from hell. There you suffer hellish torture. The stench there makes life unbearable, and before your eyes people die and writhe in pain. It is truly horrific. I understand that they even put you in the morgue. It was Shri Bhagwan alone who protected you. You will never forget Shri Gurudev and Bhagwan, and you will faithfully perform Haribhajan. You wish to know whether your fortune will be like that of the other two you mentioned. You wrote how they were born to a wealthy family, and are serving so much and performing so much bhajan, while the crying in your heart stays in your heart alone. Is it that without money it is not possible for someone to perform Haribhajan? Why did you become so morose simply because you could not afford to give me a donation this time? The anxious fervour in your heart is certainly acknowledged by Shri Guru and Vaishnavas, who are very compassionate. Although you have no worldly wealth, earth, Shri Bhagwan will see how you are crying and bless you with supreme, transcendent wealth, Paramarth. Of this there can be no doubt. I understand that, despite being my mother, you have not yet had the opportunity to serve me by cooking for me with your own hands. I will come to your straw hut, relish the preparations cooked by your own hand, and take prasad. This hope of yours will be fulfilled. In your home, kirtan and class will be held. According to your means, you will most definitely be able to invite and feed 8 to 10 devotees. We will certainly come to your home and take prasad. Do not worry, I hereby make you fearless in this regard. And please do not be angry with me for taking so long to reply. Without worries, without disturbance, chant Harina. Maintain a practice of studying some scripture as time permits. Sing the songs of the Mahajans. Chant your Gayatri 3 times a day. We are honored to be invited to the house of Vidur to partake of the foodstuffs prepared by the hand of Vidurani. Once, Krishna rejected the opulent meal offered to him by Duryodhan, who lacked devotion, in favor of the exceedingly simple offering made by the wife of Vidur, Vidurani, who possessed great devotion. Too we will be satisfied just by tasting the preparations of green leaves and rice you will prepare. I will be coming with the party to Krishnanagar around the 20th of the forthcoming month of Posh, December, January. At that time, I will come to your house one day, take prasad, and hold class, kirtan and so on. For those who have no one else in this world, Shri Bhagwan, Shri Guru and the Vaishnavas are their only aid, so why have you written that you are unfortunate? Those who immerse their minds in Haribhajan by taking shelter of Guru are the fortunate ones. Their births are blessed and successful. Selfish, worldly people are forever critically analyzing devotees, but none of their judgments can harm you. May my fallen daughters and my crazy sons continue to serve Shri Hari in happiness and peace. The all-auspicious Lord will certainly shower beneficence upon them. In your letter you have indicated that you remain awake late at night and express your inner agony, babbling incoherently. Know that I would never be indifferent to such a matter. May Shri Bhagwan grant me the intelligence to at least be able to contemplate the simplicity of your heart. Otherwise I am concerned that this son of a crazy mother and father will surely become crazy before long. If even after obtaining Shri Guru and Vaishnavas as your sons you still feel childless, then you should accept the provision that you should acknowledge Shri Gopalakrishna alone to be your son, for such a son will never die, nor will he cause you to weep. By accepting Shri Bhagwan to be our mother and father, our child and friend, our husband and our Supreme Master, we will never have to fall victim to mundane sorrow and delusion. So know him to be your one and only Son. He will never be the cause of sorrow and suffering for you. Accept my unlimited, affectionate blessings. I am somehow or another doing fine. I conclude here. Your ever well-wisher, Shri Bhaktivedant Vaman. Translated from the Patravali, compilation of letters of Shri Srimad Bhaktivedant Vaman Goswami Maharaj. CC by Sa Race of the Harmonist No.TWNT-1, Gaur Purnim 2010. Only divine blessings can bring us to the highest plane. By Shri Srimad Bhaktivedant Trivikram Goswami Maharaj. First of all, I beg all the devotees to pardon me, for I am not expert in speaking English. Therefore, excuse my faults. I offer my innumerable dandavats to the lotus feet of my Divine Master Vishnupad Ashtottar Satt Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, then to all the devotees by whose grace we can proceed to the transcendental world. Figures are perceivable when they are of equal merit. Aprakrit vastu nahe prakrit gochar. That which is transcendental cannot be attained by mundane or material effort, however strong that effort may be. It will be fruitless in the transcendental realm. We are trying to observe, something that is purely transcendental and of the highest rank. This Vrindavan Dham is appreciated by the devotees of the supreme rank, not by someone in the lowest position. The same is true for everything relating to Vrindavan, everything relating to Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani. So, the entrance key into that world depends upon the Divine Master, Shri Gurudev, by whose grace we can proceed toward that world. Yasya deve para bhaktir yatha deve tatha gura. Tasyate kathitahe artha prakashante mahatmana. Shvetashvatar Upanishad 6.23. The true import of the scriptures is revealed in the hearts of those great souls who have the same unflinching bhakti for their Guru as they have for the Supreme Lord. This is the stance of the scriptures in relation to this topic. Whatever endeavor we can make, it will be fruitless if we cannot get the blessings of our Divine Master. So we should try to devote everything that belongs to us to the lotus feet of our Shri Gurudev, by whose grace our attempts can be fulfilled. According to him or our leading spiritual masters, we should try according to our ability. If we try to jump into the superior position, we may fall down and our legs may be broken. So, most importantly, we must consider one thing. We must first of all judge where we are. We should try according to our ability. Some things may be of the highest sphere, but it is of no good to me when I am not able to understand the value of it. That Prem Bhakti which Lord Sri Chaitanya Dev has taught is the supreme. It is the highest thing. Even Lord Krishna could not understand it. But he was attracted to that prem and was bound to undertake certain practices to attain the qualification of Srimati Radharani. So, that qualification can neither be attained nor understood by fallen souls who are still bound. As long as we are bound, we cannot understand it. And not only that, however free from bondage we may be, we still cannot understand it unless and until she and her followers, the Sakhis, bless us. The topic of her prem is not related to the souls who are bound by material phenomena and attracted and charmed by material things. First of all, we should try to rid ourselves of Mahamaya power over us, and we should try to practice those things which are necessary for that end. Let us be freed from the joys granted by Mahamaya. In that case, this is the greatest advice from our Divine Masters, Nam Sankirtanam. The name of Lord Krishna, the name Hare Krishna, has each and every power we need. It has whatever is present in Krishna. There is no difference between the name and the person of Krishna. They are one and the same. We cannot understand this. The more one understands it, the more one will understand the spiritual world and the world of prem. We chant the name of Lord Krishna, Harinam, but we are not feeling anything of its spirituality. How is it possible to move in the spiritual world and in the prem world and in the prem of the gopis and Radharani? It is the best medicine for us to chant the name. It has every power to make me free and to take me to the spiritual beauties. And for this reason, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has related this in his Shikshashtakam. Chetodarpanmarjanam, Bhavamahadavagni Nirvapna, Shreya Kairvachandrika Vitrana, Vidyavdhujivan, Anandam Buddhivardhanam, Pratipdam Purnamritasvadna, Sarvatmasnapna, Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Shri Shikshashtakam, verse 1. Let there be supreme victory for the chanting of the holy name of Shri Krishna, which cleanses the mirror of the heart and completely extinguishes the blazing forest fire of material existence. Shri Krishna Sankirtanam diffuses the soothing moon rays of Bhav, which cause the white lotus of good fortune for the jivas to bloom. The holy name is the life and soul of transcendental knowledge, since Vidya, Divya Saraswati Devi, who awards divine knowledge, is Shri Nam Prabhu consort. It continuously increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, enabling one to taste complete nectar at every step. The holy name thoroughly bathes and cools the body, mind and soul. This medicine is the best medicine prescribed by physicians who are expert in that spiritual phenomenon. So let us proceed according to our ability. May God and our spiritual masters bless us to proceed through Nam Sankirtanam. This much I am delivering to you first of all. Thank you very much. Vanchatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evcha. Patitana pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. A transcription of his morning class, 18 October, Kartik 1997. Spoken in Shri Rupasnatan Gaudiya Math, Vrindavan. CC by Sa Race of the Harmonist No.TWNT-1, Gaur Purnim 2010. Shri Vyaspuj and Shri Gaudiya Vedant. By Shri Srimad Bhaktivedant Narayan Goswami Maharaj. An excerpt from an article written for the appearance day of his beloved Gurudev, Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, in 1956. In this auspicious land of India, or in fact in the whole world, within the society of those illumined by the light of Vedanta Sutra, a society connected to the ancient culture, conduct, conceptions and dharma of India, we will find very few people who have not heard the name Krishnadvapayan Vedavyas. Yet, despite having heard the name Vyas, there are many who are completely unaware of the procedure for performing Vyas Puja. Literal meanings of the word Vyas include diameter, dividing line, a detailed account, distributor, diffuser, arranger, compiler and so on. Literal meanings of the word Puja include honor, worship, respect, reverence, homage to superiors or adoration of the gods, devotion and so on. Monier Williams Sanskrit Dictionary. 1. Of its purpose, or even what Vyas Puja is. They seem to have never even heard of the term Vyas Puja before. Shri Vyasdev was an Ashrajatiya Bhagavad avatar, that is, he belonged to the class of incarnations of Godhead who are the heaven of service to God, and in that form, he was the embodiment of Kirtan, divine eulogy. Thus, from the lotus mouth of personified Kirtan emanated a constant stream of nectar, which manifested in this earthly sphere as Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam, which is also the embodiment of Kirtan, is an avatar in the form of words, Shabdavatar. That is to say, it is the written incarnation of Godhead, Granth Bhagavat. Srimad Bhagavatam offers the astonishingly wonderful solution to all problems everywhere, for all souls, throughout all time. The dharma of every soul is to render service to Krishna. This alone is called Sanatan Dharma, the eternal occupation of the soul, Vaishnav Dharma, the religion of truthism, or Jaiv Dharma, the inherent calling of all living beings. This very Sanatan Dharma has been broadly and elaborately explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Our previous acharyas saw that as time went on, the instructions of Srimad Bhagavatam were variously employed in ordinary, mundane ways, in a perverted form. So, to preserve the confidential realities and conclusive truths of Srimad Bhagavatam in a way that is easily understandable to ordinary people, our acharyas have taken shelter of the process of Vyas Puja throughout the ages. First, Sut Goswami heard the divine message of Godhead, Shrotvani. The term Shrotvani specifically refers to the message of Godhead that is transmitted through the succession of authentic spiritual masters. To directly from the lips of Sri Shukdev, who was the first one to have heard it from Vyasdev. That message brings happiness to the clan of Lord Hari. So, in the arena where time stands still, the deep forests of Naimisharanya, Sut Goswami accomplished Vyas Puja through kirtan of that message, Shrotvani, in the presence of Shaunak and the other rishis. Later on in Badrikashram, the Acharya of the Sri Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, Sri Madhvapad, accomplished Vyas Puja by extolling the sublime words of Vyasdev. Through his commentary on Bhagavad Gita called Gita Bhashya, he thus performed the uninterrupted and auspicious Aarti of Vyasdev. After that, Vyas Puja was performed in Sri Dham Mayapur, the heart of Navadvip. There, in the epicentre of Kirtan at Srivasangan nearby the banks of Patit Pavani, she who purifies the fallen souls. 3 Ganga, Sri Nityanand Prabhu, who is Baldev Prabhu himself, the spiritual master of the entire universe, accomplished Vyas Puja by performing kirtan of the very same message of Godhead, Shrotvani. Then, in recent times, from the same stage in Sri Dham Mayapur, our Param Gurudev Paramahansa Parivrajkacharya Vishnupad Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj preached the message of Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the entire world, demonstrating the perfect ideal of Sri Vyas Puja. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam 12.3.52. Krite yad dhyayato Vishnu. Tretaya yasto makhaya. Dvapre paricharyaya. Kalo tad dhari kirtanat. That which could only be attained in Satyayug by meditating upon Vishnu without interruption, in Tretayug by perfect ceremonial fire sacrifices, and in Dwaparyug by extravagant, ritual worship of the deity form of the Lord, is all attainable in Yug by performing Sri Hari Kirtan. By adopting the process of Vishnu Puja explained by Sri Vyasdev in this verse, that is, by performing Kirtan of the message of Godhead, Shrotvani, Sri Sut Goswami, Sri Madhvapad, Sriman Nityanand Prabhu and Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami have all instructed us on the process of Vyas Puja. Following the path of hearing the authentic message delivered by Sri Guru, Shrotpat, and rejecting any path wherein that message is not heard from an authentic source, a Shrotpat, is the factual meaning of Vyas Puja. And preparing oneself for service to Sri Hari under the guidance of Guru and Vaishnavas is the purpose of Vyas Puja. The path of hearing. What is that Shrotpat? The path of hearing the authentic message of the Guru Parampara. Maharaj Parikshit knew very well that life is temporary, something certain to perish after a few moments, and he realized that the highest perfection of human life would certainly be to spend the last few moments of his life hearing the message of Sri Hari flow from the lips of a Mahabhagavat, a devotee of the highest class. So, after renouncing his entire kingdom, he arrived on the bank of the supremely purifying Sri Gangaji. Present there were many divine seers, rishis, thoughtful sages, munis, preceptors of dharma, spiritually enlightened men, brahmagya, deeply learned scholars, brilliant sophists, adherents to the path of proper action, mystic yogis, powerful ascetics, and those who were observing severe vows, but who actually resolved all the deep concerns of that sincere inquirer, who bestowed upon him divine vision of true reality? None but Sri Shukdev Goswami, the best of the Mahabhagavatas and the disciple of personified Kirtan, Sri Vyasdev. Sri Shukdev Goswami had heard from Sri Vyasdev through Shrot Parampara, the descent of the message of Godhead from the authentic and realized speaker to the qualified hearer. He had thus heard discourses on Bhagavad Bhakti, and he had also heard the Srimad Bhagavatam, within which is the sublime message of the transcendental kingdom that exists far above the realm of mundane sense perception. Later, Sri Sut Goswami appeared in that very same current of the message of Godhead, Shrot Parampara. In Naimisharanya, amidst the Rishis and Munis, who were all frightened by the onset of the age of Kali, he was able to effectively and concisely deliver the purport of the Vedas in direct and simple language. Even within this age of Kali, Sri Gaur Sundar manifested his eternal pastimes, and in the shelter of the perpetual flow of that same message of Godhead, that is, in the shelter of Kirtan, he has delivered all the living beings ensnared by Kali. And recently, in pursuit of Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur innermost desire, Vishnupad Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada has actualized the welfare of the entire world through that same message of Godhead, Shrotvani, through Harisankirtan. And today, by performing Kirtan of the message of Godhead in accordance with the guidelines he set, his dedicated followers celebrate Vyaspuja every year. First, be established in the self. Performance of Vyaspuja is not meant to be carried out by just one particular individual or by one particular sect, sampradaya, rather it is meant for all souls. In Mahabharata, Sri Vyasdev has said, Sarve Varn Brahmana Brahmajashcha. In other words, all castes are Brahman because they are born of Brahma, therefore everyone has the right to perform Vyaspuja. However, qualification to do so is also essential. For example, all men or women have the right to become a father or mother, but, due to lacking the qualification of sufficient age, a 5-year-old boy or girl cannot attain the condition of parenthood. Similarly, without acquiring the qualification for Vyaspuja, one cannot perform Vyaspuja. Bhagwan is the totality of consciousness, and the embodiment of all transcendental humors. Guru Tattva, the existential principle of Guru, is also transcendental, and another name for Guru Puja is Vyas Puja. Furthermore, Vyasdev was an empowered incarnation of Bhagwan potency, a Shaktyaveshavatar. Hence, Vyas Puja is also a transcendental form of worship, puja. Therefore, in order to perform this Vyas Puja, or before entering into the realm of absolute reality, one must first be established in the constitutional function of one's soul, Atmadharma. Among all the Acharyas in the universe, who are like stars in the heavens, Sri Gaur Sundar is the pole star. He has given the instruction to first of all become completely established in Atmadharma, and in Sri Gita, Shri Krishna's first teachings to Arjun were that he is the superior soul beyond the inert body and mind. Aprayam itastva anya. Prakriti vidhimi parang. Jeev bhuta mahabaho. Yaedan dharyate jagat. Bhagavad Gita 7.5. O warrior, know that my material nature is inferior. I possess another, superior nature comprised of the living beings, who are occupied with this material universe. Therefore, to become established in the soul's Atmadharma verily means to attain the qualification to engage in Vyas Puja, and only this constitutes the beautiful stage upon which Vyas Puja is performed. It is said in Shastra, Nadevo Devam Archayet, An ordinary mortal can never worship a divine being. Worship of an incorporeal entity cannot be accomplished through a corporeal entity. Worship of a conscious entity cannot be accomplished through an inert object. Cognizance is incomprehensible to incognizance, so the worshipful and the worshipped should be of the same class. Otherwise the worship will be mundane. It will not be worship at all, but rather a completely fictitious show of worship like an actor on a stage. Apart from bhakti, there is no way to become pure. The technical name for becoming established in Atmadharma is Bhut Shuddhi, purification of one's existence. The gross and subtle bodies are the soul's two provisional coverings. So, while the functioning, or dharma, of the body and mind is provisional and mundane, the functions of the soul are, inversely, eternal and spiritual. Those who believe that some external, formal processes can in fact be equated with purification of one's existence, or Bhut Shuddhi, pursue the path of fruitive actions. Just as repeatedly washing a wine pot with water can never rid it of the smell of wine, karmic endeavors, that is, actions performed through the functioning of the gross body, can never give one the qualification to worship conscious entities. Parikshya lokan karmachitan brahman. Nirvedam ayan nastya akritah kritein. Vidyanarthan sa gurum evabhigachet. Samitpaniya shrotriyam brahmanishtham. Mundak Upanishad 1.2.12. A Brahman who has exhaustively and carefully studied the scriptures will realize the extreme insignificance of the branch of the Vedas that prescribes the performance of worldly karma, especially he will realize that it does absolutely nothing to help a person achieve spiritual welfare. Accordingly, he will become completely disinterested in the performance of karma. On the other hand, when he fully realizes that in order to gain superior or spiritual knowledge, which is attainable only through the Shrautpath, he must exclusively and in every respect dedicate himself to Guru, who knows the absolute truth and who has seen it directly. Thus, dedicating his life to serving Bhagwan, being sincerely inquisitive and full of yearning to know the absolute truth, he should take a vow to spend his life following the path of Shuddha Bhakti under the guidance of that Guru. As such, since the path of karma is dispensable, a man next endeavors for Bhut Shuddhi, purification of one's existence, through mental purity. He thus subscribes to the path of Jnana. This class of man equates Maya with the master of Maya, Sri Hari. Such men claim Bhagwan is just another name for Maya, and outwardly they abandon karma or fruitive activity. Superficial renunciation and impersonal Brahma is the ultimate aim of their meditation. Although the topics of regulated sense enjoyment and renunciation have been described in scripture as a preparatory step in the practice of bhakti in order to gradually deliver us from our addiction to karma, an addiction that stems from ignorance, these people consider the superficial aspect of these statements to be the ultimate ideal and thus remain deprived of the eternal truth. It has therefore been said in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.4. Shreyasrite bhaktim udasyate vibho. Klishyanti ye keval bodhlabdhe. Tesham aso kleshal ev shishyate. Nanyad yatha sthul tushavghatinam. This verse means that those who give up the higher path, Shreya, and accept difficulties just to acquire dry knowledge can be compared to a man who struggles to retrieve rice from empty husks. He obtains tribulation and tribulation alone. They thus remain deprived. Sarvadharman parityaja. Mam ekam sharanam vraj. Ahatva sarvapapebhyo. Mokshayishyami ma shuchaya. Bhagavad Gita 18.66. Completely abandoning all bodily and mental dharma, such as varna and ashram, fully surrender to me alone. I shall liberate you from all reactions to your sins. Do not grieve. Devi hi esha gunmayi. Mama maya duratyaya. Mam ev ye prapadyante. Mayam eta tarantite. Bhagavad Gita 7.14. This external energy of mine, which consists of the three gunas and which bewilders the jivas, is certainly very difficult to overcome. But those who take exclusive shelter of me can easily transcend this maya. Mana bhav bhakto. Yaji ma namaskuru. Mam evashyasi satyante. Pratijane priyosi me. Bhagavad Gita 18.65. Offer your mind to me, become my bhakt by hearing, chanting and remembering my names, forms, qualities and pastimes, worship me and offer obeisances to me. In this way you will verily come to me. I promise you this, for you are so dear to me. Hence in these verses from Bhagavad Gita, which emanated from the lotus lips of Sri Bhagwan, comes the unarguable affirmation that apart from service to Bhagwan, apart from bhakti, there is no real destination for the living entities. Bhakti is the topmost dharma of the soul. Being established in bhakti is bhut shuddhi, and it is the eligibility and the ability itself to perform Vyas Puja. Another way to describe Vyas Puja is Atma Smarpan, full self-surrender, at the lotus feet of Sri Guru. To carry out the innermost desire of Sri Guru, which is to serve Bhagwan in a beautiful way, or to act in accordance with that desire, is alone the highest dharma. Therefore, the farther we proceed along the path of fulfilling Sri Guru innermost desire, the centre of which is Sri Vyasdev and Srimad Bhagavatam, the more we will achieve success and perfection in our performance of Vyas Puja. The followers of Mayavad. The compound word Mayavad literally means the doctrine of illusion. It is so called because the followers of Mayavad claim that the world is an illusion. 4. Also perform Vyas Puja. By misinterpreting certain statements of Shruti such as Aha Brahmasmi, I am spirit, and Tat Tvam Asi, you are that, the Mayavadis accept the conception or state of impersonal oneness as their topmost goal, but in Srimad Bhagavatam, the genuine commentary on Vedanta, Sri Vyasdev, the original author of Vedanta Sutra, provided his own explanation in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is therefore referred to as the natural commentary on Vedanta, cf. Tattva Sandarbh 21.1 and Haribhaktivilas 10.394, Artho Yam Brahmasutrana Bhartarth Vinanayah, quoted from Garud Puran. 5. These interpretations are rejected. Moreover, Shankaracharya directly clashed with the original Vedanta Sutra in some parts of his own commentary. Wherever he did so, he claimed that his Gurudev, Sri Vyasdev, had been mistaken. Hence, the readers will contemplate to what extent the Mayavadi's performance of Vyas Puja is actual worship, or to what extent it is but a duplicitous scandal. We have never forgotten the original author. Vyas Puja takes place in many sampradayas. In the 15th and 16th centuries, many great personalities appeared who preached the message of Vyasdev in various provinces throughout India. They rendered the message into different languages, making it easily understandable for the masses. Tulsi Das Ramayan in North India, Guru Nanak's Adi Granth in Punjab, Sri Jagannath Das Oriya Bhagwat in Odisha, Shankardev Kirtan Ghosha in Assam, and many other devotional literatures were composed during that time. Nowadays, the members of these sampradayas have all but forgotten the original revealed scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam, and its original author, Sri Vyasdev. These people worship their own contemporary scriptures in place of Srimad Bhagavatam, and they worship the modern authors of those scriptures in place of Vedavyas. Yet, even today, such forgetfulness has not occurred in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. The devotional compositions of the great contemporary authors of the Gaudiya Sampradaya, compositions like Chaitanya Mangal by Sri Lochan Das Thakur, Chaitanya Bhagavat by Shri Vrindavan Das Thakur and Chaitanya Charitamrit by Shri Krishna Das Kaviraj contain in them invaluable treasures for the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Despite the availability of these devotional compositions, the Gaudiya Sampradaya has not forgotten the original scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam, and its original author, Vyasdev. Indeed, to date, the primary obligation of the Gaudiya Sampradaya is to daily discuss Vedanta Sutra, Srimad Bhagavatam and Sri Bhagavad Gita. The behavior and conceptions, Achar Vichar, presented in Srimad Bhagavatam alone constitute the behavior and conceptions accepted by the Gaudiya Sampradaya. The perfect philosophy. Acharya Shankar propagated Keval Advaitvad, Sriman Madhvacharya propagated Shuddhadvaitvad, Sri Ramanujacharya propagated Vishishtadvaitvad, wherein the soul and matter are understood as distinctive adjectives of Brahma. Sri Nimbaditya Swami propagated the philosophy of simultaneous difference and non-difference between the minute living entity and the Supreme Lord in Dvaitadvaitvad, and Sri Vishnu Swami propagated Shuddhadvaitvad. The literal definitions of these doctrines are as follows. Keval Advaitvad, exclusive non-dualism. Shuddhadvaitvad, pure dualism. Vishishtadvaitvad, particularized or distinctive non-dualism. Dvaitadvaitvad, simultaneous dualism and non-dualism. Shuddhadvaitvad, purified non-dualism. 6. But none of these doctrines bear the all-encompassing conception of the Vedas. In all of them we find only a partially developed conception of Siddhant, perfect philosophical conclusions. Proceeding all of them, Sri Chaitanya Chandra personally appeared on the scene of great Acharyas and manifested his eternal pastimes. He filled any missing facets in the doctrines of these Acharyas, and from the unprecedented synthesis of all of them, he established the perfect doctrine. While filling in any gaps, he accepted the philosophical conclusions of Sri Madhvacharya regarding the Lord as the concentrated essence and embodiment of eternality, knowledge and bliss, Chidanand Vigrah Siddhant, the philosophical conclusions of Sri Ramanuj regarding the Lord's potency, Shakti Siddhant, Sri Vishnu Swami philosophy of purified non-dualism, Shuddhadvait Siddhant, and Sri Nimbaditya philosophy of simultaneous dualism and non-dualism between the Lord and the living entity, Dvaitadvait Siddhant, and thus propagated one all-encompassing, perfect conclusion called Achintya Bhed Siddhant, inconceivable, simultaneous separateness and oneness. The pristine, eternal dharma, the very substance of the entirety of the Vedas, has been established in this Siddhant. Those who have accepted this perfect philosophy, Achintya Bhed Siddhant, and follow Sri Gaurasundar constitute the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Sri Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. 7. The performance of Vyas Puja in a particular Sampradaya will verily remain incomplete to the extent that the philosophy of that Sampradaya is incomplete. So, herein lies the difference between the Vyas Puja of the Gaudiya Sampradaya and the Vyas Puja of other Sampradayas. To revive the sound of Kirtan of Paramahansa Chakravarti Sri Shukdev Goswami divinely penetrating treatise. The original phrase is Hansi Sanhita, a treatise by or for swan-like personalities. The metaphor of the swan is used in connection with the swan's ability to extract pure milk even after it is diluted with water. In other words, Sri Shukdev Goswami has extracted the purest and deepest essence from the vast ocean of the Vedas and presented it in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. 8. Srimad Bhagavatam, which had been all but lost, and to drown the whole world in the flood of that Sankirtan, Paramahansa Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhant Saraswati Goswami Maharaj appeared in this world as Gaur Shakti, the potency of Sri Gaurang. As such, to proceed along the current of his heart's deepest wish is to truly accomplish Vyas Puja. And this is factually in accordance with the current of the message of Godhead that has descended through the succession of bona fide gurus, Shraddha. Pursuing any other current will result in antipathy toward Guru and Bhagwan. Presently, even within the Gaudiya Sampradaya, some people have challenged this line of thought. Among them, some pretend to be on the platform of bhajan, transcendent, internal service, through dramatic imitation. Some claim that Nam Sankirtan of the Krishna Mahamantra in this age of Kali is neither legitimate nor prescribed by scripture. Some try to engage Lord Sri Hari in gratifying their mundane senses, and others are drowning in their desire for wealth, women and fame. It is clear that their performance of Vyas Puja is not real Vyas Puja but merely a masquerade. Factual worship of Vyasdev. Some people think that discussion of Vedanta Shastra never takes place in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Of course, they are mistaken. Certainly, these days many antithetical sampradayas such as Aul, Bol, Kar, Tabja, Neda, Sahziya, Sakhi Bheki, Smart and Jati Gosai have forced their way into Sri Chaitanya Sampradaya. But their main purpose is to amass wealth, women and prestige, and their main occupation is simply to entice the common people. They are perpetually at odds with the philosophical truths, Siddhantas of revealed scripture. There can be no comparison between them and the Gaudiya Sampradaya. The cultivation and study of Vedanta Darshan takes place in the Gaudiya Sampradaya more than in any other Sampradaya. Vedanta Sutra and its authentic commentary, Srimad Bhagavatam, which were both authored by Vedavyas, are the very wealth of Gaudiya Vaishnavas. In these two scriptures the famous philosophies of ancient times, Kapil Sankhya philosophy, Kanad Vaisheshik philosophy, Patanjali Yoga philosophy, Gautama's Nyaya philosophy, and Jaimini Purvamimamsa philosophy, along with the more recent philosophies of Charvak, Arhat, Bodh and Pashupatnakulish, have all been soundly refuted. At the same time, these two scriptures have established the supreme absolute truth, Parbrahm, Shri Krishna as the object of relationship, Sambandh, Krishna Bhakti as the way, Abhidheya, and Krishna Prem as ultimate goal of life, Prayojan. To establish the philosophical conclusive truth of Achintya Bhedabhed, the Acharyas of this Gaudiya Sampradaya have composed commentaries on the three canonical Vedantic texts, Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, and the Upanishads. These three texts are often collectively referred to as Prasthanatrayi, literally, the 3 points of departure on the path of spiritual knowledge. The 3 points of departure refer to Sutra as the course of Nyaya, logic, Bhagavad Gita as the course of Smriti, memorized truth, and the 12 Upanishads as the course of Shruti, authentic, divine revelation. 9 These commentaries will always preside in the sky of the philosophical world as brilliant as the sun, and Sri Jeev Goswami's 6 Sandarbhas. The 6 Sandarbhas, or 6 treatises, comprise an exhaustive and systematic epose of the philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through scriptural evidence. The 6 treatises are Tattva Sandarbh, Bhagavad Sandarbh, Paramatma Sandarbh, Krishna Sandarbh, Bhakti Sandarbh and Priti Sandarbh. A final treatise, Kram Sandarbh, which is a commentary on the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, is usually included along with the other 6. 10 are the most extraordinary and invaluable treatises therein. They are the living and resplendent proof of Vedantic scholarship and cultivation in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. And apart from these, other Gaudiya literatures completely encompass all subjects literatures such as Sri Rup Goswami Bhaktirsamrit Sindhu and Ujjwal Nilmani in the realm of Bhaktiras Shastra, his Lalit Madhav and Vidardha Madhav in the realm of dramas, Shri Jeev Goswami Harinamamrita Vyakaran in the realm of grammar, Shri Rup Goswami Padyavali, Hansdoot and Uddhav Sandesh and Shri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Chaitanya Charitamrit in the realm of poetry, Shri Sanatan Goswami Haribhakti Vilas in the realm of Smriti Shastra, codes of conduct or law books. These literatures even encompass the subjects of astronomical calculations, Jyotish, Vedic astrology, and history. The fundamental subject established in all these literatures is threefold: Krishna, Krishna Bhakti and Krishna Prem. Therefore, after thorough deliberation, one can see that the Gaudiya Sampradaya is the only true Vaiyasiki Sampradaya, that is, it is the only Sampradaya that completely follows Sri Shukdev Goswami, the son of Sri Vyasdev, in every respect. For this reason, the present branch of the Gaudiya Sampradaya was named Sri Gaudiya Vedant Samiti. The word Samiti means society, assembly, association or committee. 11. So that, rather than accepting Shankaracharya Mayavad or Nirvisheshvad as the authentic conclusions of Vedant due to ignorance, people will recognize Sri Gaudiya Vaishnavas as genuine followers of Vedant, for they exclusively follow Srimad Bhagavatam, the natural commentary on Vedant. Sri Krishnadvapayan Vedavyas is he who divided the Vedas and composed Vedanta Sutra. When one states that the Vaishnavas are followers of Vedvas, it refers exclusively to the Vaishnavas of this very Gaudiya Sampradaya. So, within the Sampradaya that follows Vyasdev, worship of a Guru who acts as Acharya by practicing and preaching Bhagavad Dharma is factual worship of Vyasdev. To perform Vyas Puja of such an Acharya Guru is to truly fulfill the innermost desire of Sri Chaitanya Dev. Accomplishing Vyas Puja through this process is the only way to resolve the unlimited problems of this world. This form of Vyas Puja is the perfect ideal of worship in the message of Godhead, as it descends through the succession of authentic Gurus, Shraut Puja. There is a great personality who has organized so many festivals to arouse Haribhakti in our hearts, who has arranged spiritual assemblies, published spiritual journals and books in various languages, opened schools and training centres for spiritual studies, established mathas for the purpose of propagating Harikatha far and wide, who has preached the immortal message of Sri Chaitanya Dev by spreading the sublime and powerful message of Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and who has refuted and subdued the doctrines of anyone who subscribed to some deformed philosophical conclusion. That great personality has restored youth to the waning presence of Sanatan Dharma in this world and has made new vitality flow through the Gaudiya Sampradaya when it was on the brink of its demise. Today is the puja of that Sri Gurudev. Today, the devotees of Sri Gaudiya Vedant Samiti, with a faith that is richly imbued with the moods of sublime service, are offering an arrangement of fresh, soft, delicate flowers, kumkum, incense, chandan and various auspicious items at the beautiful lotus feet of Paramahansa Parivrajkacharya Ashtottarshad Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. Today, at the divine lotus feet of our Gurudev, we offer our obeisances millions and millions of times, and with millions of voices we eulogize his divine passion for fulfilling the deepest heart's desire, Manobhisht, of his own Gurudev. Translated from Sri Bhagavad Patrika. Year 1, Issue 10, 1956. CC by Sa Rays of the Harmonist No.TWNT-1, Gaur Purnim 2010. Preaching Report. Preaching Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Message in Mauritius. By Swami B. V. Madhav. The Pre-Acharya of the present Global Society of Vaishnavas, my Shiksha Gurudev, Vishnupad Ashtottarshad Shri Srimad Bhaktivedant Narayan Goswami Maharaj, arrived in Sri Raman Vihari Gaudiya Math in New Delhi after the completion of Vrajmandal Parikrama 2009 and briefly visiting Navadvip Dham. He waited there for 1 week for his visa to Mauritius. While Sri Gurudev was staying in Delhi, the High Commissioner of Mauritius in Delhi, Mr. Mokhesor Chone, took his darshan twice. Mr. Chone was so impressed by Sri Gurudev Harikatha that he entreated various prominent people in Mauritius to take care of Sri Gurudev during his stay there and ensure that he was comfortable. In Mauritius, Sri Gurudev was hosted at a residence 1 hour driving distance from the airport. Although he was far from town, many respected gentlemen came to meet him. Among them were M.R. Ragmohan Nunko, the Drug Commissioner of the Prime Minister's Office, and M.R. Somdut Dulthumun, the Chairman of the Mauritius Sanatan Dharm Temple Federation. Several other ministers informed us at that time that they were coming to meet Shri Gurudev at the gathering to be held in 1 week. During Shri Gurudev's stay, his speech on the occasion of Gita Jayanti, the day on which Shri Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita, was most memorable. The people of Mauritius have been observing Gita Jayanti for many years, but this year they celebrated the occasion profusely. It is a matter of great fortune that, by the will of Bhagwan, Shri Gurudev was present in Mauritius at that time. This festival was organized by the Mauritius Sanatan Dharm Temples Federation in collaboration with the Mahatma Gandhi Institute and the Rabindranath Tagore Institute at the Rabindranath Tagore Institute's auditorium. Both institutes are financed by the Government of India. There are many Vaishnav institutions already present in Mauritius, but none of them have ever been given the opportunity to deliver a speech at this festival. They have only participated as members of the audience. Yet, even though this was Shri Gurudev's first visit to Mauritius, the organizers of the festival entreated him to speak a few words on the occasion of Gita Jayanti. Shri Gurudev happily accepted their request. Many distinguished gentlemen attended the Shri Gita Jayanti festival. Prominent among these guests were M.R. Radhmohan Nunko, M.R. Somdut Dulthumun, Mr. Ravindark, Chairman of the Mahatma Gandhi Institute, Mr. Anil Bacho, Minister of Public Infrastructure, Transport and Shipping, Professor P. K. Arya, Media Features of India, Professor Narsimhachari, University of Madras, M.R. Somdut Permal, Secretary the Mauritius Sanatan Dharm Temples Federation, and others. Shri Gurudev explained to the assembly that Srimad Bhagavad Gita was written by Shri Vyasadev and that it comprises the 18 chapters from the 25th to the 42nd chapter of the Bhishma division of Shri Mahabharata. Therein, Shri Krishna, Bhagwan himself, personally delivered these invaluable instructions to Arjun, who is his dear friend and in fact, his eternal companion. Krishna's sole purpose was to produce auspiciousness for the entire human race. Through his instructions, all of mankind has been enabled to cross the ocean of material existence and thus attain service to Shri Krishna lotus feet. Shri Gurudev continued by revealing that Bhagwan Shri Krishna made Arjun act as though he were bewildered by illusion, impelled him to ask questions befitting the qualification of ordinary people, and then personally delivered the answers. Those who take shelter of the lotus feet of a bona fide Guru and constantly study Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the association of sadhus will quickly cross over the ocean of worldly existence and attain service to Shri Krishna lotus feet. Of this there is no doubt. The speaker of Shri Gita is Bhagwan Shri Krishna himself. Many Yugavtaras and Leelavtaras appeared in the land of India, but none of them personally proclaimed their position as Bhagwan. Even Maryada Purushottam Bhagwan Shri Ramchandra and Prem Purushottam Bhagwan Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tried to conceal that they were Bhagwan. Bhagwan Shri Ram pastimes were certainly filled with heart-rending and tender moods. By reading and reciting his Leelas, by hearing them, and by seeing them performed on stage, an uncontrolled river of tears often flows from the eyes of the listener, and the hairs of his body stand on end. Sometimes his eyes remain wide open as he wonders what will happen next. Shri Ram Leelas are so heart-touching. Since they actually appear to be the pastimes of an ordinary mortal, they have become exceedingly popular throughout the entire world. But Bhagwan Shri Ram never presented himself as Bhagwan. On the other hand, Shri Krishna has established his own godliness, Bhagavata, within Sri Gita, and he has also established bhakti to him as the supreme sadhan, process, or means, and the supreme sadhya, goal. Shri Krishna declared himself to be Bhagwan not once, but many times. And so many famous munis like Devarshi Narad, Asit Deval, and Vyas have also established this supreme truth. Within Sri Gita again and again Shri Krishna states that he is Bhagwan while using first person singular pronouns such as mad, aham and mang. Mattah Partaran Nanyat, Shri Gita 7.7. Aha Hai Sarvaya Jnana, Shri Gita 9.24. Aha Sarvasya Prabho Mattah, Shri Gita 10.8. Furthermore, Shri Krishna has established in Shri Gita that he alone is the supreme objective of self-surrender and of bhakti. Mam ev ye prapadyante, Shri Gita 7.14. Te pai mam ev kaunte, Shri Gita 9.23. Mana bhav mad bhakto, Shri Gita 9.34. Sarvadharman parityajya mam ekam, Shri Gita 18.66. On the 19th and 20th of December, at the residence of M.R. Radhamohan Nanko, the Drug Commissioner of Mauritius, Shri Gurudev gave special Ramlila Katha. He also elaborately explained the topic of gradations among bhaktas as gauged by their respective forms of bhakti. Attending this class in the house of M.R. Nanko were journalists, ex-ministers, and other dignitaries. Prominent among them were M.R. Bhusan Domah, the Supreme Court Judge of Mauritius, and M.R. Kiranram Sehe, the Chief Editor of the Mauritius daily newspaper, Le Matinal. At the end of the class, the respected judge asked Shri Gurudev about his consideration regarding the cause of the developing global financial crisis. In answer, Shri Gurudev explained two causes. First, throughout the entire world, people have become excessive sense enjoyers. When life can be maintained in a simple way, what is the need of such a luxurious lifestyle? Nowadays, by simply sitting in one place and pressing some buttons, everything comes to you automatically: water, food, entertainment, everything. So, to the extent that people try to enjoy more luxury, there will be an increasing want for wealth. Second, people have become very wasteful. They may use a particular household object, a new cloth for example, a single time or only twice. And then, impelled to purchase something new, they throw it away. They never reflect on how many resources they are wasting. The Supreme Court judge was extremely satisfied with Shri Gurudev's answer and thanked him. He and the other dignitaries requested Shri Gurudev to visit Mauritius again and again. From Mauritius, Shri Gurudev travelled to South Africa, where despite strong opposition, his preaching met with astounding success. South Africa I. January 4-9, 2010. Vansivdan Das. On January 4, 2010, over 100 devotees waited at Durban International Airport for the arrival of our beloved Shri Gurudev on his first visit to South Africa. Many devotees wept upon seeing him for the first time. Young Abhiram Das was so excited to be the first to garland Shri Gurudev. Initially, Shri Gurudev stayed in Pietermaritzburg at the home of Achyut Das and Madhurika Dasi. After his daily morning walk he would visit the homes of the enthusiastic devotees in that area. On the second and third days, he spoke at the Aryan Hall, and he gave Harinam and Diksha to many devotees. Shripad Damodar Maharaj performed their yajna in the home of me and my wife Krishna Priyadasi. Then on the fourth and fifth days of his visit, Shri Gurudev stayed in Durban at the home of Atul Krishna Das and Rukmini Dasi. On those days he spoke at the Seva Samaj Hall and warmly welcomed the two guest speakers, Dr. M. Buthelezi, a local politician and Zulu prince, and Mr. A. Rasbansi, the leader of a local political party, who were the two guest speakers. On the sixth and final day of his first visit, January 9, 2010, Shri Gurudev gave a short class at the Durban International Airport as he waited for his flight to Johannesburg. At that time he also gave some local devotees personal instructions to continue his mission in South Africa. Shri Gurudev was very satisfied with his visit to Pietermaritzburg and Durban. On a personal note, the 9th of January 2010 was the best day of my life. After my visit to India, I wanted to hug Shri Gurudev. I never told anyone about this, but as he left the airport boarding area, he walked up to me and hugged me and lovingly instructed me to help him by preaching his mission in South Africa. Brazil, January 12-17, 2010. Govind Dasi. About 800 devotees from all over Latin America waited for Shri Gurudev arrival in the Dale Verde Hotel in the Atlantic Forest. He had not been to Brazil for 7 years, and the hearts of the devotees of Brazil were being torn asunder by separation from him. As Shri Gurudev entered during a large, powerful kirtan, many devotees began crying, overwhelmed with happiness. The representative of the Council of India, Mr. VKV Raman, approached Shri Gurudev and after an exchange of smiles and garlands, he spoke kind words about the distinguished presence of a sadhu in the world. Shri Gurudev eulogized the glories of the Vedas, especially Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and the glories of Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj preaching in the western countries. Then, Shri Gurudev explained that the sadhu should go here and there from door to door in order to remind the jivas about their swarup or constitutional position, and about the merciful and worshipful Lord, Vrajendranandan Shyamsundar Shri Krishna. Sometimes Shri Krishna personally comes to this world, sometimes he becomes manifest in the form of the Acharyas like Madhvacharya and Ramanujacharya, and he also manifests as Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the holy name. Krishna name is even more powerful than Krishna himself. Please have fixed faith in the holy name, perform bhakti and preach my mission throughout the world. As the sun prepared to rise on the day of Vyas Puja, all the devotees gathered for a sweet Mangalarti. After that, they worked together to prepare plentiful offerings for Shri Gurudev, including a cake that weighed 30 kilograms. As they served together, they all softly sang Happy Birthday, and then Govind Damodar Madhveti. Finally, Shri Gurudev instructed everyone to collect all the sweet pastimes of the Bhagavatam in their hearts, Prahlad Charitra, the histories of Bharat Maharaj and Ajamil, Krishna pastimes with the fruit seller and his pastime with Kaliyanag, his Rasleela, and also Venugeet, Gopigeet, Bhramargeet and so on. On the 16th in the evening, Jaydev Goswami Geet Govind was performed by Odissi dancers. This festival was also an important time for facilitating better organization of the Portuguese group and the distribution of Shri Gurudev's Spanish books from Argentina to all of the countries in South America. Gaur Premande. South Africa 2. January 26-29, 2010. Vansivdan Das. After his trip to Brazil, Shri Gurudev returned to South Africa on January 28th. He stayed at the beautiful home of Arjuna Krishna Das in Johannesburg. On the second and third days, he spoke at the Benoni Gujarati Hindu Seva Samaj Hall to an audience of 180 people. On the third and fourth days, he spoke at the Gandhi Hall in Lindsay where 250-300 people gathered to hear his Harikatha. In the last 10 minutes of his final lecture, he transported us to Vrindavan as he recited beautiful shlokas and explained them in a wonderful way. In fact, it brought many people to tears. Everyone glorified and praised Shri Gurudev by clapping loudly. Then on the fifth day, Shri Gurudev initiated 30 devotees. At both venues, More than 500 devotees and guests listened attentively as Sri Gurudev spoke on many topics. He spoke very boldly about his relationship with Sri Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, and he explained that the Gaudiya Math is the father and mother of ISKCON. At both venues he and the sannyasis spoke about Sri Krishna various pastimes like Damodar Leela. They also spoke about bhakti, about the importance of taking initiation from a bona fide Guru and following his instructions, about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityanand, about sadhusang, about chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and about understanding your Gurudev mood and Sri Rup Goswami mood. On the sixth day, January 31, Sri Gurudev flew out of South Africa. His tour was a huge success. The devotees are ardently praying for him to return soon. The local devotees feel greatly indebted to Sri Gurudev, Shripad Madhav Maharaj, Brijnath Prabhu, Vrind Didi, Shripad Ashram Maharaj, Shripad Sajjan Maharaj, Shripad Damodar Maharaja and all of Sri Gurudev preaching team. CC by Race of the Harmonist No.TWNT-1, Gaur Purnim 2010.